Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Knight of the Podcast.
You know, when I came into this episode, knowing that we are reviewing a truly iconic and celebrated title, I wanted to start it with a very classic question. What's your favorite scary movie? However, I do feel that's kind of cliche and a little tacky at this point because it's so overdone. So instead, it's going to go something like this. Just stay with me. Hi, this is Gail Weathers with an exclusive eyewitness account of this amazing breaking story. Several more local teens are dead, bringing to an end the harrowing mystery of the mass killings that has terrified this peaceful community like the plot of some scary movie. It all began with the scream of a 911 and ended in a bloodbath that has rocked the town of Woodsboro. All played out here in this peaceful farmhouse, far from the crimes and the sirens of the larger cities that its residents have fled. Okay, let's take it back to one. Come on, move it. This is my big shot, Troy. Let's go.
Oh, you got that monologue memorized. Look at her.
Look, I was working on it, looking in the mirror, trying to get that fierce, ferocious, absolutely just poised and powerful Courtney Cox stare that she has perfected. The glare when she looks into that camera. That woman, I mean, Courtney Cox owns the character of Gale Weathers. Everyone's got a favorite character in Scream. My favorite is Gale Weathers. How about you, Troy?
Oh, I love Gale Weathers. She is definitely, I would say, of the characters that have continued through the franchise. Gale Weathers is definitely my favorite for sure. Yeah, Courtney Cox. I mean, you can't at this point you can't picture anybody else in that role. And originally they were trying to cast, and I just don't see it. I don't know. It just doesn't fit in my mind. Janine
I've
Garofalo.
heard that. I've heard that.
And I'm like, oh, and Molly Ringwald was who they approached first to play Sydney, and she felt like she was too old for the role.
I absolutely think so. Like, wouldn't there have been how many years after playing like those roles, like those characters, would she still be playing a high school character?
Yeah,
Like she was doing that in like 1986, let alone like 1996. That would have been strange. That wouldn't have really felt weird, don't you think?
yeah. Well, she was 26 in '96.
But what a blessing that she didn't take that role because, I mean, and I know it's a horse it's a dead horse that we have been beating, that we gays have been beating, but it's got to be said. It's got to be said. Sidney Prescott is the quintessential final girl, I would say, at this point in the game. I mean, in the sense of a final girl who is both like believable and genuinely likable, but also like super capable. And just like she takes the hits and she keeps on coming. Sidney Prescott keeps on coming back for more. And now there's rumor that she's really coming back for more in the new Scream 6. What started off as like internet gossip has seemed to maybe possibly develop into something that could very well be true. And like, I'm fine either way with it. But after watching this movie, I gotta say, like, Sidney Prescott is Scream, and Scream is Sidney Prescott. Scream is Nev Campbell. And removing that from the movie, I don't know what it's going to do for the rest of the series when that inevitably does happen. But that woman has such a power over the camera. The camera is absolutely just smitten with her. Whenever Nev Campbell is on camera, I am in it to win it. And she is just such a commanding lead, such the anchor of this movie. She really does hold this entire movie and entire franchise down, and keeps it grounded and in kind of in like in the midst of all the absurdity that keeps going on around Sydney. Nev Campbell always manages to keep her feeling real and human and grounded, and I love that about her, and she's just so charming in this movie.
Well, we got a glimpse of what the Scream franchise would be without Nev Campbell or really any of the legacy characters with the MTV series Scream. And, you can put a lot of judgment on, where it would go without her and how it would end up based on that attempt, which I found a lot of things charming about the Scream television series. I'm going to admit it to you. I liked some of the characters, but you're right. When you're watching it and it's playing out very much as a Scream film, even though it's a television series based on the film, it's just lacking. It's lacking. I was fine with them. I guess I wasn't fine if it was truly a issue that they were not giving Nev Campbell what she was asking for, because like I said, you give her, I mean, she is the anchor. How much money has she made this franchise? How much money has she made the last Scream film? I mean, look how much that made. I give her what she was asking. So I'm not fine with them if they weren't willing to give her what she wanted to come back. However, I was fine with her really not coming back, if that makes sense. Because at some point, let the character be. It's 6. She's been in 5 films. And I feel like, especially the last 3 Scream films, it's basically rinse and repeat. She's doing the exact same thing. She shows up for a little bit of the film just in time to get chased by the killer a little bit and be there for the huge killer reveal. And not that it's not a blast, but like, what more can you do with her? If you're going to bring her back, do it in a way that makes it fresh and meaningful to the story, not kind of like shoehorned in. Because even though I loved the last Scream film, I felt like her role in it was just kind of dropped in there to have her return. I mean, it was basically the whole final act of the last Scream film was pretty much the whole final act of the first Scream film. So I want to see them. I don't mind them bringing her back, but I just want to see them do something different with her.
I agree. And I'll say, like, the last Scream film almost felt like, to a lesser degree, what Scream 4 was. Like, Scream 4 started to introduce the idea of other characters, younger characters, and it brought her back. And I thought honestly, I love Scream 4. I have very few issues with it. I think it's a blast. Alison Brie in that jacket. I just think I think it captures the fun of the franchise. But it was starting to kind of practice the idea of, introducing a new generation. The newest Scream, Scream 5, did that, but with like half the amount of Sydney. And what I think I really would like to see is, give us a movie that shows us what it could be like without her, or if you have her in a very minimal context, like references like news footage or something. Like, give me like an Easter egg. Let me know she's still part of the universe. But yeah, like, let me see what a story could be without her. But eventually, like, if you're going to revisit her, give me one more movie revolving around her. Stop making her secondary. Conclude the storyline in a way that feels nicely wrapped up. Let's get one more Sydney based film. I don't think it's going to be this next one, but I wouldn't mind seeing one more movie about her journey kind of coming to an end, whatever that is symbolized, whatever that may be. I don't want to just see her slowly like kind of sent off in cameos until she's just no longer there. I want her to be taken out properly. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of where the rumor mill is churning. I will say, I mean, we're reviewing Scream 1996.
Can you tell?
That's the film. No. But the issue is I don't want this to turn into, because literally this could be like a 5-hour episode. So one of my stipulations when talking about this film was that we try not to talk about any of the other sequels, because this film by itself is so much already to talk about. So I feel like, we will someday down the road cover the rest of the films in the franchise, I'm sure, but I want to kind of stay focused on Scream 1996. And it's hard. It really is going to be hard. It really is, because the
I think we got out of our system already. I think we talked about it.
whole large Scream universe exists, and it is one of the most successful horror franchises of all time. So how are you gonna, I mean, there's so much to talk about, and then there's so much going on right now with the franchise, with the Nev Campbell rumors, with Scream 6 being in production as we speak, taking place in New York City. I mean, there's a lot of excitement around the franchise, but I want to kind of pull it back and focus on the original Scream film and our thoughts on that. And because, like I said, we could go off on tangents, which I am right now. But yeah, so Scream 1996. Now, folks, if you listen to our last episode, we did mention we were going to be covering Poison Ivy, the 1992 Drew Barrymore, Sarah Gilbert thriller, erotic thriller. Unfortunately, that kind of fell through, and it was our 75th episode. This is our 75th episode, Roger. So we wanted to stick with Drew Barrymore, but then do something worthy of 75. We've done this 75 times, more than that with our Patreon. So we just said, fuck it, let's do it. Let's go with Scream.
Yeah.
When we first started the podcast, I was always adamant that we were never going to do these super popular films like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream, because they've been talked about so much. What more could be said about them, right? But I mean, I think we can have a lot of fun with this and bring some unique insight into the conversation about this film, especially now that the franchise is reignited, and hot again. And speaking of Patreon, check it out, folks. We just dropped our full-length episode for June, and it is the 1985 comedy starring Tim Curry, Madeline Kahn, Elaine Brennan, Clue. So if you want to hear that, go to patreon.com/Dark Night of the Podcast.
I couldn't keep my shit together. I couldn't keep from laughing just in like recollecting some of the moments in Clue. I even right now, when I think of Eileen Brennan with that goddamn purse beating on that fucking furnace, I lose my shit. I can't do it. Get away from me! Like, I can't get enough of it. But yeah, seriously, that right there should be motivation for you guys to get on that goddamn Patreon and give that one a listen, because, whew, it was a fun one. I was laughing so hard I was crying. One of my favorite films. It really came from a place of genuine appreciation, much like this title. And when we decided upon talking about Scream, upon learning about the whole, loss of Poison Ivy, and the inability to visit that movie now, though we shall in the future, we assure you. I agree with you. I never really thought of Scream as a title like that I needed to cover, but I enjoy so much talking about you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm flattered.
Pause. No. But I enjoy so much talking about these horror titles with you in general. And oftentimes we're talking about titles that are like obscure or ones that, one of us maybe has never seen. I'm really excited to talk about a title that like you and I are both super familiar with. And I think very much has defined our appreciation for horror in general and influenced our careers. I mean, you and I are both filmmakers, but we're both filmmakers that focus within a somewhat of a niche genre, which is the slasher horror.
And if anybody has seen any of my 3 films, particularly I would say Mrs. Claus, you know that Scream influenced me. Definitely. It is a film that I remember. I saw it in the theater when it came out way back in 96, in December of 96. I was there in the theater and I was just in awe. I saw it Scream 4 times in the theater because that is how much it just... I was just like, fuck, I haven't seen anything like this forever, It's been talked about to death, and the fact that the early 90s were basically a desert for good horror films. You had some decent horror flicks come out, Misery, Silence of the Lambs, but for the most part, particularly the slasher genre, by 1990 was dead. literally dead, fucking dead. You weren't getting really anything. You get the occasional, like, oh, maybe Dr. Giggles or something like that. But you did not, there was not successful slasher films hitting theaters to the degree that you had them in the 80s and 70s. So it's very much known that Scream, when it came into theaters, it revitalized the entire slasher genre. And some will say it was for better, some will say it was for worse, because what ended up happening is we got tons of quote unquote clones. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, though we very much discussed the fact that we don't think either one of those are Scream clones. So it ushered in a whole new wave of slasher films, and I will say filmmakers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It completely defined a style and approach for the next generation of filmmakers who dabble within this genre. The influence you see from this film is just everywhere to this day, everywhere. I mean, look at the films that came after it, the Urban Legends and the I Know What You Did Last Summers. And while they definitely stand on their own 2 feet, they definitely took inspiration from what Scream put out on the table.
I would more say that they benefited from the success of Scream, if that makes sense. I feel like the films were able to be greenlit and make it into theaters because of Scream. Not necessarily that they were like trying to replicate what Scream was, which we know at the time was a meta horror film. Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I know I'm missing a couple. There was a whole slew of them. Were not really meta films. The films that were really copying Scream, like copying it in terms of its plot device and its plot structure and the big killer reveal at the end, were your direct to video slasher films. Such as, I mean, there was a bunch of them. Do You Want to Know a Secret? School's Out. There was tons of them that were trying to replicate the whole whodunit thing. And while Urban Legend had that same element to it, Rebecca Gayhart's amazingly frantic performance in the final killer reveal in Urban Legend, really wasn't the same type of slasher film.
I guess I'm leaning more towards the visuals more than anything, in the sense that when I think of this genre before Scream, it was always like gritty, and it was just, this brought a level of gloss to it that if you look at the films that came after, slashers transitioned to being Hollywoodified, if you will. And that's why movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend were able to be as glossy and as well produced as they are, because you had these bigger companies taking bigger risks with these titles because of the success of Scream. So Scream, I think, along the lines of what you said, it opened the doors for slashers to be considered as hugely marketable.
Yeah, well, and I can see that. You're right, because Scream is one of the first also, theatrically released slasher films to actually have a cast of somewhat well-known actors and actresses at the time. I mean, Courtney Cox was in Friends. Nev Campbell came from Party of Five. So you weren't really seeing that in the 80s. You watch any 80s slasher flicks, and it was mainly a bunch of, I don't want to say nobodies, but actors who were, this was their first or second role. They had never done anything before. They weren't really well known. So when Scream came on board and you got Drew Barrymore, I mean, come on, and Courtney Cox and David Arquette, you got this amazing cast together, and then the film ended up grossing over $100 million at the U.S. box office. Yeah, you're right. Then these other studios that had these slasher scripts on their desk were like, okay, yeah, we can do this, and we can actually find some recognizable talent. With Urban Legend, you got Rebecca Gayheart. I Know What You Did Last Summer. You got Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I mean, so I do think, yeah, Scream is responsible for that as well, for allowing production companies and studios to put a little bit more money behind the film. And it still kind of is that way today. I mean, look at all these slasher films that have come after Scream, and you get some actors that you wouldn't generally think of signing on for a slasher film to actually do slasher films. It became almost like a rite of passage, so to speak, for young actresses and actors to appear in a slasher film. I mean, look, I mentioned Sarah Michelle Gellar, but look at like Brittany Murphy, who did Cherry Falls, and Reese Witherspoon, who did Fear.
Yeah, yeah. Scream introduced a level of legitimacy to the franchise that I don't think it really had before that. Because of the cast and because of the level of polish and because of the skilled direction and the phenomenal script, there's just, like I said, there's a level of gloss to this movie that really kind of elevated, and we talk about elevated horror, but it just elevated quality. It elevated our expectations as viewers going forward. The twists are now always bigger. There's always there's got to be more red herrings. Like Scream really just captured that. It gave us all of those things. You suspect everybody. There's so much potential for people to be killed. The chases are huge. You know, the twists are jaw dropping. It gives you all of that, and that all really falls back on obviously Kevin Williamson, but also clearly Wes Craven. There, this power combo that came together to tell a really phenomenal story based on a great script, but represented in a visual way that's just so striking and looks so sleek and well produced. It's just such a glossy, pretty movie.
Yeah, and right from the opening scene, we are treated to what has become, I would say, one of the most, if not the most, iconic opening scene in horror film history. Can you think of an opening scene really that is iconic and as impactful as this one? I mean, even like I was thinking about it, and I thought, okay, well, I know When a Stranger Calls, that has from the 70s, that has a very spine chilling opening scene with poor mousy Carol Kane getting the phone calls about, why haven't you checked the children? And then what, I mean, I guess Halloween, the opening to the original Halloween, is pretty iconic, but I think this opening scene stands head and shoulders above all of those and is really what hooked audiences and got them sucked into this film, because it did something extremely ballsy in terms of casting a Drew Barrymore, who at the time was a very well-known actress. I mean, Drew Barrymore has been around forever. I mean, she was in E.T., she was in Firestarter, the original one. I mean, she did a slew of 80s films. Then she went into the 90s doing erotic thrillers like Poison Ivy, and then she did some comedies and Never Been Kissed and all that stuff. And I mean, to get her in this film, and from that iconic first phone ring and her picking up the phone and with her cherub looking face and her sensible blonde bob, which is basically the blonde version of Madeline Kahn's bob in Clue. And we're like, oh, look, it's Drew Barrymore. Oh, she's going to be our final girl. How sweet. And oh, how we are wrong.
Oh, how we are fucking wrong. My God, but what a genius move to play against the audience's expectations. And as it's come out, it has been said that Drew Barrymore was obviously offered the role of Sydney, but
Mm-hmm.
and originally accepted, but schedule issues prevented it from being so. But she loved the script and wanted to be involved, and so she's one of the reasons she suggested taking the role of Casey Becker. And honestly, I think it's just a fucking genius move because again, yeah, no one's going to expect it, but it also has kind of set a precedence for the films to come after it. The iconic openings that we've come to expect from this franchise. We've seen a lot of girls step into the shoes of the opening kill within the Scream series, but none can hold a candle to Drew Barrymore as Casey Becker. It's just it is in a league of its own.
And once she picks up that phone and you hear that voice, the very distinct voice now that has become again associated with the franchise, it sends chills up your spine. I mean, the voice doesn't even have to get malevolent, as it gets progressively more malevolent. But even from the first hello, you are like, oh God, that's a fucking creepy voice. And it just, the scene, what makes this scene so, I think, successful and so impactful is how the tension just builds and builds and builds. I mean, the first phone call is very innocent. The person's like, oh, what number is this? And she's like, well, what number are you trying to reach? And it becomes very innocent. And she's like, oh, you got the wrong number. Sorry, no problem. It happens. And she hangs up. Phone rings again, and you're like, okay, why is this guy calling back? And she's like, even she even asks him, why'd you dial the wrong number again? And it just, these phone calls become progressively more sinister, and the voice gets progressively more sinister. And this upon this viewing, I really paid attention to to kind of the voice acting that Roger Jackson does, and it is very impressive, very impressive.
Yeah, his voice has become synonymous with the series, and I think that that there is a level of control and timing that he possesses that is always so spot on. Because, as you said, initially he doesn't necessarily sound uh, threatening at all, but there's still something so intimidating because you recognize the sound of that voice right away. Um, and I love that initially it is so innocent, and that opening banter between him and Drew, it's just so like natural. It just even as when he starts to kind of get into the beefier dialogue about what's your favorite scary movie, when we start to get to this point, it's still controlled enough that she's feeding right into it. She suspects that it's just, someone playing a casual joke, someone that she knows in this small town. There's no threat factor, at least for her. There's no factor to be detected yet. For us, though, that voice, we pick up on it the moment he starts speaking. And so there's just something so ominous because eventually the shit's going to hit the fan. And oh, how it hits.
Yeah. So after the first couple initial phone calls where they're just having playful banter about him calling the wrong number, she puts on a packet of Jiffy Pop on the stove. Turns the stove on, and the Jiffy Pop starts popping. He calls back. And this time is the iconic "What's your favorite scary movie?" because he hears the popcorn pop and he's like, "What's that noise?" And she's like, "Oh, it's popcorn." He's like, "Oh, you're making popcorn?" Mm-hmm. Well, I only eat popcorn when I'm watching a movie. And she's like, "Well, I'm getting ready to watch a scary movie." And he's like, "Oh, you like scary movies?" And she's like, "Mm-hmm." And then we get, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And what does she say? Halloween. The one where the man in the mask stalks the babysitters.
I love the way that this is written here. I mean, for multiple reasons, but first and foremost, because it's made clear that while she enjoys scary movies, I wouldn't categorize Casey Becker as a horror aficionado. She doesn't even know Michael Myers' name. She references him, as you said, as the guy in the mask killing babysitters. Which, like, I mean, first of all, having a Halloween hat tip right away, the fact that this movie exists in a universe where all these other titles do exist, it's so great because there are so many Easter eggs nonstop, constantly referencing classic titles. It's so fun to listen for them, or ways that they throw little hat tips towards other movies. There's a great one with Nightmare on Elm Street coming up later that I know you know the one, Troy. But yeah, they're just really great in acknowledging all these other films that exist within this universe, and it makes it seem that much more real because they're movies that we as horror fans talk about all the time. But for her, as a casual horror fan, she doesn't even know who Michael Myers is by name. This is going to come into play here in a moment, and it makes her seem very vulnerable.
Yeah, and I think the Nightmare on Elm Street line you're referencing comes up right now because she asks him what his favorite scary movie is, and he says, "A Nightmare on Elm Street." She's like, "Oh yeah, Freddy, the guy with knives for fingers." And then she makes the little quip that is humorous if you get the intention behind it. She's like, "Yeah, the first one was good, but the rest sucked." And we know that's kind of in reference to the fact that Wes Craven directed the first Nightmare on Elm Street, but had nothing to do in terms of directing with any of the sequels except the New Nightmare, right? And then they keep bantering, and he asks her name, and she's like, "Well, why do you want to know my name?" And then it comes that stinger of a line, "Because I want to know who I'm looking at." I don't know about you, but the first time I saw that, that's just sent chills up my spine.
When he shifts into a tone that is seemingly malevolent, because that line is very planted. Like, he's very aware of what he's saying. And then after that, he tries to act like he said something different, but he knows what he said. The shift in tone is palpable. And from this point moving forward, Drew Barrymore, Casey, is no longer comfortable with the conversation. She's obviously distressed, and she wants to stop talking to this person. So she hangs up on him. He calls back. She's trying to hang up on him again, and then before she can hang up, he basically erupts on her, and his voice takes on a sound that it has not possessed yet. And this is a very violent and angry tone. And this is really the sound that you get from Ghostface moving forward through the majority of the film and the franchise overall. This is his more, I would say, this is his killer voice when he's going into full killer mode. This really just harsh, loud, frantic tone, and it really is just truly unsettling. If I was on the other end of that phone, I would be horrified. And it does sound very much like a voice that you would get in one of those goddamn voice changers. I buy it. Like, I buy everything about it.
Well, it's the line. He calls her again and she answers and she's like, "Listen, asshole." And he's like, "No, you listen, you little bitch. You hang up on me again and I'll gut you like a fish." I mean, it goes from like 0 to 180 in a split second. And at this point, she is, I mean, like you said, she's frightened. I'd be frightened. She's scared shitless. And she's like, "Is this some kind of joke?" And he's like, "No, it's more of a game, really." She's like, "I'm 2 seconds away from calling the police." They'll never make it in time. I mean, it's just all these little jabby responses by him that just paint the overall picture of like helplessness, isolation, dire danger that she's in, because we already saw through the opening scene when they kind of close in on the house that this house is like in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah. You get another great moment where she's like, "What do you want?" He's like, "To see what your insides look like." Like, it's so fucking violent, and it really does make it clear that he's someone who's going to live up to his threats. Like, this is a killer who is built on violence. He's not just looking to, like, I mean, he toys with them at first, but once it goes in for the kill, he's not so much looking to play cat and mouse as he's just looking to go in and fucking gut these people and have their organs hanging from the rafters. Like, this is the kind of killer, this is the scale of psychopath we're dealing with. And so she gets so meek and terrified. She's hiding in corners and crying, and she's like, "My boyfriend will be here any second, and he'll be pissed when he finds out. He's big and he plays football, and he'll kick the shit out of you." Like, poor Steve. I'm gonna tell you, he's there, but he ain't kicking no shit out of anybody.
No, and the killer's like, "Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. His name wouldn't be Steve, would it?" She's like, "How do you know his name?" He's like, "Turn on the patio lights again." So she goes, turns on the patio lights, and we see poor Steve in his Letterman jacket tied to a goddamn pool chair, face duct taped, or mouth duct taped, face covered in blood. I mean, again, the progression, the escalation of this scene is what makes it so fucking brilliant.
Oh my God. And, I'll always be curious about the character of Steve. I want to know so much more about him, because we never even see him without the tape over his mouth. So I don't really know what his face looks like, aside from his just terrified eyes. And he barely says even a word. All you hear from him is muffled behind this tape. But he's still one of the most like iconic horror day players of all time. Poor Steve in that Letterman jacket. And I've always just been curious. I want to know more about this character. I want to know more about the actor that played him. I want to know his backstory.
Yeah, I do too. It's interesting. You never really hear about. I don't know if the actor went on to do anything else or who the actor even is. But I mean, he has the distinction of being the first on-screen death in the Scream franchise. How awesome would that be?
A lot of people will often say that, Drew Barrymore is the first kill in Scream, but that's not true. It's Steve.
It's Steve.
Steve is the first victim.
He literally gets gutted because basically the killer wants to play a game, and the game is he's going to ask her a question. If she gets it right, Steve lives. If she gets it wrong, Steve dies. So he begins his little trivia game by asking her, name the killer in Halloween. And she's like weeping and crying, "I can't, I won't." And she's like, "Then he dies right now." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, Michael Myers. And he's like, yes, you got it. See?
Yeah, and throughout all of this, like the fact that she's not a complete horror aficionado, like I mentioned before, it's pretty obvious because she's struggling to get these answers. So by the time he asks the second question, which is who's the killer in Friday the 13th, and she's like, it's Jason. Like that's a question that I hear a lot of people get wrong on a regular basis.
Oh my God. I was just going to say, Roger, do you realize how many people that quote unquote are supposed to be huge horror fans that post pictures of their Friday the 13th collection and memorabilia? And I've seen them say that the killer in Friday the 13th, the first one
Yeah.
was Jason. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, eye
Yeah.
roll. I mean, it's a very common mistake. However, I think that was the brilliance of including it
Exactly.
in the script.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that one of the strongest things about this film overall is the fact that they did their homework. Like they are coming in with such a knowledge of not just horror movies, but horror movie fans. When you eventually get introduced to the character of Randy, that is really like when you understand that the people that created this movie are people that understand the fan base, the die hard horror fanatics who know every line of every movie, and they know there's certain rules that you got to stick to. And the fact that they were aware of this when they created this story, this script, is really one of the big reasons this movie works so well. It's so self-aware.
It's interesting because if we go back, and I haven't listened to some of our earlier episodes forever, but I know for a fact that for some of our specific films that we've covered, that we have either you or I have mentioned the fact that, oh, with this particular film, it's apparent Kevin Williams had to have seen this film because it's virtually, pulled right from this film, or this character is virtually the same, which we will talk about with Randy when we get to him. Okay. Yeah. So she gets the question wrong. She answers Jason. And he's like, nope, wrong answer. And she's like, no, I've seen that movie 30 fucking times. And he's like, then you know that Mrs. Voorhees is the killer in the original Friday the 13th. Jason didn't show up until the sequel. And all she can say is, you tricked me. And I'm like, no, he didn't. He asked you who the killer was in Friday the 13th. He did not trick you. Bitch, you just don't know your movies. Sorry.
What would have happened if she would have gotten this answer right, is my question.
I don't know. I've thought about that. Would he really have just went on? Okay, untie
like,
Steve. We're going home.
Like, well, fuck me, I guess. There goes my plan.
However, Roger, knowing who the killer is, and we're not gonna, guys. You know who the killers are in Scream. Okay, we're not gonna pretend like we're trying to not spoil
this is
shit
a
for you.
spoiler-laden review.
If you haven't seen Scream by now, come on, get with the program. But knowing that one of the killers is Stu, right? It is mentioned that Stu dated Casey Becker, even though he says, yeah, for like 2 seconds. So is it possible that he knew, knowing her and going on dates with her or whatever and hanging out, he knew she would get the question wrong? He knew that she really wasn't a horror movie fan?
Oh, I'm sure they strategically picked her. I mean, it's pretty clear that the victims over the course of this film, for the most part, are all selected with great care by these two killers. They're very aware of who it is they're killing off, because at the end of the day, they have kind of a master plan that they're trying to unfold, as we will talk about eventually at the end of the film. But I think they were very aware that they're trying to make this look like it's an ulterior motive. And I think the reason that they did select Casey probably does very much stem from Stu's resentment of what you mentioned, the fact that he dated her briefly, and he's probably a little pissed off about it.
And Ghostface says, sorry, wrong answer. Lucky for you, there's another question, but poor Steve. And all of a sudden you hear like the knife, you hear a grunt, and you hear like guts spilling out. And she turns on the patio light, and Steve has literally just been gutted. His guts are hanging out of his body on the floor in front of him. It's, a pretty graphic scene. These killers like gutting people as well. That seems to be their method of choice, right?
Yeah, that is a very painful way to go out.
So he asks her particular question. And her question is, what door am I at? Yeah. And she's like, what? And he's like, there's two main doors, the back patio door and the front door. What door am I at? And before she can answer that, a fucking pool chair comes busting through her patio glass. She runs. At this point, the Jiffy Pop popcorn is fucking burning. It's filling the kitchen with smoke. She runs and grabs the knife out of the knife block, and we get kind of the first glimpse of the ghost face costume.
I love this shot.
Yeah, it's pretty startling. It's pretty startling.
It's so brief. Like, you just see it rush by the doorway very quickly, and it's just like you just get a hint of it, but it's so fucking startling. Yeah, it's so like just intimidating. And one thing I noticed here in this sequence, I never really picked up on before, but Casey is barefoot in this sequence. I don't know if you saw this, but like, I mean, there's broken glass, there's all kinds of shit going on, and this poor girl, like, not only is she completely desperate here, but she's also like barefoot in the midst of all of that. Like, it just seems like such a horrible situation to be in. This poor thing.
Well, yeah, she runs outside and is kind of cowering against the house, looking in the window, and we get another shot of Ghostface as he runs through the kitchen. And it's such a cool costume because the cape, the black cape thing is very flowy. So when he runs, it kind of, flutters out and it just looks very creepy and, predator like. But as she's outside, she notices the headlights of her parents coming down the road. So she makes a beeline towards the front of the house to be able to get to her parents. And I wonder, being at Drew Barrymore, I wonder if this was a moment where people are like, oh, look at her. She's going to be saved. Her parents are coming home. You know what I mean? Like if the people were like, oh, look at, yeah, she's going to be saved. Now she's still going to be our final girl. Woohoo. But no, as she's running to her parents, she has to run past Steve's, eviscerated body. And she runs. There's a moment where she looks in the window and we get that very effective scare where Ghostface all of a sudden turns around and is staring right at her, and he busts through the window to try to grab her, and she hits him with the phone that she's still holding. And then she takes off towards the front of the house to get to her parents. And just as she's reaching the front porch, the Ghostface killer jumps out of the window and tackles her to the ground.
This whole run sequence is such like a landmark horror moment, and I have seen the visual of Casey Becker getting up, and running across the field as he's chasing behind her in slow motion as he brandishes the knife and proceeds to literally insert it like into her chest. Like, you see the knife enter her chest in this slow motion shot as he grabs her, and it's just so like visceral and just really just brutal. Like, this whole build up to this kill is so cruel and nasty, and it's really the last thing you would expect with this character. Again, as you said, as we mentioned, being Drew Barrymore, you do not anticipate her to be killed off so quickly, let alone so fucking violently. It is just vicious. And to make it even worse, the whole bit with the parents, as she sees the parents coming in, trying to call out for them, only to be, stabbed again and mounted by the killer and just completely destroyed. I mean, he wrecks this girl.
As her mother ultimately is listening to everything happening on the phone, because the parents run into the house, they see the broken glass, they see the Jiffy Pop now burning, they're calling out for Casey. She's nowhere around, so the mother grabs the phone to call 911, but Casey is still on the line, and it's the moment where she hears Casey being stabbed, and grunting and crying out. And you get the line where the dad is like, "Now go down to the street to the Mackenzies," which is right from Halloween. And as the mother goes to the porch and swings the door open to run outside, she lets out a very guttural, emotional scream. And we get a quick zoom in on what is Casey Becker's dead body hanging from a rope from a swing from the tree out in the front yard. And it is, again, I'm going to keep saying the word iconic, but it is one of the more iconic shots from a horror film of the last 30 years, probably. I mean, it's so gross.
I mean, I'm sorry, Cherry Falls could
No,
never.
her guts are hanging out. There's steam coming out of them. It is just disgusting, gnarly. And we cut to Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell.
Neve Campbell, again, as Sidney Prescott, is just so pure and demure And her evolution over the films is really something to enjoy, but focusing on this movie specifically, again, as a final girl in general, she sets the bar high because this movie gives us so much time with this character. We are pretty much by Sydney's side the majority of the film, the vast majority of the film. We're really sticking to her story, and the other characters are just kind of revolving around her universe. But she is just such a presence in this film and so likable. And this opening scene with her and her banter with Billy as he Dawson Creeks his way through her window, very of the era. The chemistry between the two of them, it's palpable. It's there, and she's so sweet and exudes this innocence. And you learn as the movie progresses, you kind of learn where that's coming from and why she's so resistant. But it's just very elegantly played, very well played. I think it's because Nev Campbell herself has a certain level of poise and control and elegance whenever you see her speak in general, and that really translates to this character.
Well, and I do like that it is a very sweet moment. Initially, it's a very sweet moment between Nev Campbell or between Sidney Prescott and Billy Loomis, because I think that at this point the audience is still trying to catch their breath from the opening scene. So you wanted it to transition into something a little bit more tender, so that the audience can settle down. Because Billy Loomis, looking Johnny Depp like, and doing his Dawson's Creek pop in, comes into her window, and he proceeds to tell her right after her dad hears her scream. So her dad comes in the room, and there is this very subtle thing that happens that comes into play later when her dad tries to open her bedroom door. Her closet door, which is right next to her bedroom door, is open. So when her dad opens the bedroom door, it catches on the closet door, so it will not open. It's like a accidental barricade. But we find out her father is going away for the weekend for work, and he's staying at the Hilton at the airport, and he to call her if he needs anything, or for her to call him if she needs anything. Father leaves, and we get Billy popping up with a stuffed animal, and he says his reason for visiting is because he was at home watching The Exorcist, and it got him thinking about her. And she's like, "It did?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was made for television. So or it was edited for television. So all the good stuff was taken out." And basically what he's getting at is they have not had sex because of something that happened. Their relationship in terms of intimacy has gotten even worse in a roundabout way, even though like he is like trying to act like he's not there to try to get some. That's what he's really trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. And he's so like, I mean, Skeet Ulrich, first of all, is sexy and sexier with age. He ages like a fine wine. Gimme, gimme, gimme some of that.
He looks better. He looks way better now than he did then. Can I be like the Descent gay and say that I was never like, I never thought Skeet Ulrich was attractive in Scream, like, at all.
I can hear that.
Just he never did it for me. Never did it for me. I just never did it.
But I like him as an actor. I like his presence.
I do. He's great, and he has that Johnny Depp look that Wes Craven is obviously a fan of. But he is charming to an extent. Like, I still think that there is this like thread of just like sleaziness, that runs through this Billy Loomis character. And I don't know if that's part of the reason why I just never was on the Billy Loomis is so hot bandwagon.
Yeah. Well, and you also got to keep in mind Skeet Ulrich before this had a very similar kind of, if anything, even more like unlikable character in The Craft.
The Craft, yeah,
with also featuring one Nev Campbell. Yes, but I think he kind of fell into this kind of character mold for a bit of playing like just this unlikable, dickish kind of male character that has these undercurrents of just traits that you really find kind of like skeezy. And this character is skeezy from the moment you see him. And even when he's saying the whole thing about, I just thought we could do a little of the on top of the clothes stuff. Like, like it's so like, yeah, I just thought I could get up and rub on your jugs for a bit. Like, it just is so gross,
I know, but do you notice what he does when she agrees? is like he immediately starts to try to lift her little granny nightgown up and is trying to like finger her. And she's like, nope, that's enough. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, it was like you didn't even last 20 seconds before you're trying to finger this poor girl. Like, good Lord. And so she tells him he has to leave. And as he's leaving, she makes this cute little comment about, oh, would you settle for a PG-13 relationship? And he's like, what's that? And she flashes her little Nev Campbell boobies. We don't see them, but he does. And he just chuckles.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate her character. I appreciate the fact that she's trying to maintain a certain level of dignity. Like, it's very much kind of an evolution off of the trope of the final girl always being so pure. Like, they definitely give us that here, but they give us that with a personality. Like, she's very much a fleshed out, developed character. And there's a lot of reasoning for why Sydney operates the way Sydney does as we explore as we go further into the film.
Well, the next day, as Sydney arrives at Woodsboro High, it is complete chaos. There are reporters everywhere, cops everywhere, and we get introduced to Tatum, played by Rose McGowan, who I know right now is a kind of a polarizing figure, but hey, back then she wasn't, okay? She was innocent little Rose McGowan. And, Sydney's like, what's going on? And Tatum's like, you haven't heard? Casey Becker and Steve Orth were murdered last night. And we're not just talking murder, we're talking splatter movie murdered. They were ripped open from top to bottom, and she even tells them that their parents, that Casey's mom found her hanging from a tree with her insides on the outside. So Tatum is set up to be the devoted sidekick best friend, and I think that Rose McGowan fits the part pretty well. She's serviceable as Tatum. She does some things with the character that I really appreciate. We also see our first glimpse of the lovely lime greened Gale Weathers.
Oh golly. Well, one thing I really want to focus on with this review is a rating system for Gale Weathers wardrobe
For her
choices, which
wardrobe.
will expand throughout all of the reviews we do for every Scream movie moving forward. Outfit number one, the quintessential Gale Weathers wardrobe piece, if you will. This is honestly one of the defining ensembles that makes Gale Weathers, much along the lines of the short, choppy bags from Scream 3. I mean, this is one of her defining looks. It's a lime green power suit, matching miniskirt. It boasts exaggerated shoulder pads and a fitted waist. What an intro. 5 out of 5. Right off the bat. So I'm a fan of this costume, of this suit. It's great. Um,
I love a woman in lime green. I love lime green.
who selected this color for her? I
I
mean,
don't know,
it
but
doesn't look good on anybody.
it pops.
God, how it pops! I mean, you can't look away from it, but it's great.
I mean, she stands out on that high school campus there in that lime green ensemble. And yeah, you're right. I think the outfit she's associated the most with, because anytime you see Gale Weather dolls or figures, they're always wearing that lime green
so
ensemble.
so aggressive on camera. Like, you'd think someone would say something to her, but you know what? Whatever. It's what makes her her, and I love her so much. I can never complain. I love everything she does. I love that bright red lipstick. I love her. But one thing I really also enjoy about just the way the Scream movies approaches the events that transpire is the media presence is always like bustling, and it always makes everything feel like such a big to do. And this first murder, it's like the talk of the town. I mean, there are news crews from all around gathering around the school campus, and it's clearly like a hot fucking story. And that's like an aspect that the Scream movies have always carried through every single one of their entries. The media presence, the involvement of the news and like bloggers and everything, that's always been very connected and like intertwined in every storyline. And I just love how present it is. I love how much chaos is going on. It makes things feel very high stakes, a term you guys know I love, but it just adds to everything for me.
I think that was part of Kevin Williamson when he wrote the script for Scream. He was inspired by a serial killer or a spree killer, serial killer, in the 90 or 91, called nicknamed the Gainesville Ripper. Danny Rollins was his name. And there was a point over a course of 3 days at the University of Florida in Gainesville that he brutally murdered like five co-eds. And when we talk about brutally murdered, if you guys want to hear some disgusting stuff, then you need to just Google the Gainesville Ripper and read what he did to these victims. We were talking about some of the most horrific things I've ever heard. Kevin Williamson heard that story, and it was like a national news frenzy, and the University of Florida in Gainesville very much became a media circus. Like, kids were leaving. Every major news outlet was down there reporting, because, I mean, there was a killer on the loose. And these brutal murders were happening in a span of literally every night. Kids were being murdered. And so, long story short, it was a huge media circus. It made People magazine, the front page of People magazine. It was all over the news. If you were at the University of Florida in Gainesville, the whole grounds were nothing but media outlets. So I think that may have leaked over into the script to have such a prominent media presence in a film like this, or a news presence, because it's not something you typically see in a slasher movie.
No, but I think you, Troy, I think you can agree with this as a fan of true crime. You know that when it comes to these true life scenarios, they are carried by the news and the media. I mean, it is such an element of what's going on. And I think you're absolutely right in saying that Scream is one of the first slashers to really have it be present, at least to the extent that we're seeing it, and it greatly benefits the film and the overall like believability factor of what's going on.
Oh, precisely, because how many slasher films have we seen that have taken place at schools, or in small towns where literally over the course of weeks several people are being murdered, and they're just going on their daily lives like nothing happened. Nothing's getting closed down. I mean, so this was a very realistic portrayal of, for lack of a better term, a media circus that would very much be in line with what you would expect in a small town that just had 2 brutal murders on the almost 1-year anniversary of another horrifically brutal murder that this town saw. Of course, the media would be there, and they would be super aggressive, like Gale Weathers and like little Linda Blair in her cameo. The people have a right to know. So after this, Sydney gets called into the principal's office from her English class, where she is very cognizant of the fact that Casey Becker's desk next to her is empty. So she goes, and we meet Sheriff Burke for the first time, and we meet Deputy Dewey Riley, David Arquette, who has become a staple of the franchise.
Yeah, he's portrayed in a very specific way in this film, and it's one of those things that, like, since I haven't watched the original Scream in a while, I didn't really take into account how much his characters evolved over the course of 5 movies. Like, I've always found the character of Dewey slightly annoying, but that's like, I think, part of just who he is. I don't take it to be a negative aspect of Dewey. He's just bumbling and kind of always fucking things up and fumbling, but well-intentioned, and that's why he's such a likability factor. But by Scream 5, I mean, this guy has been through it, and there's so much evolution that happens. So coming back to this and seeing him so fresh-faced and youthful, and he's supposed to be, what, like 25? I mean, like, he's when he's hitting on this older woman. I mean, it's I used to think that he was a character that really annoyed me, but he's very endearing. He's, like I said, well-intentioned, and genuinely cares about the other people around him. And so I enjoyed Dewey during this viewing. I thought he added a levity and a sense of humor that the film does very well with.
I'm kind of the opposite, to be honest with you, in terms of, well, not where you're at now, but where you were at. Like, I've always liked Dewey in Scream 1. And then as the films went on, he progressively annoyed me more and more. I feel like almost that it was a character that, Kevin Williamson, and then ultimately like Aaron Kruger, who wrote the script for Scream 3, they really didn't know what to do with him after this first film, because if you don't know, Dewey was supposed to die. Like, in the original script, Dewey dies. They shot it, he died, and they let him live because the first initial screen tests, the audience did not like the fact that he died, which I get it. He's a super likable character in this film. There's like that childlike innocence that he even mentions himself. But I feel like, if you have a franchise planned out in your mind, right? Me and you have written films. We kind of think about it this way. And there is a character that was in the first film that's a prominent character, but didn't you already have the ideas for all of the sequels that come after it, or the trilogy, right? And he's not part of the second or third one. But then because, the studio changes the ending to the first film to allow him to live, and you have to bring him back for the second film that he really never was supposed to be in the first place. I feel like that might be a little bit of a challenge to bring that character in and try to flesh him out, because if you already had an idea of where you were going with the plot and it didn't involve him, having to put him in there and kind of shoehorn him in could be a little bit difficult. And I think that might equate to why I feel like Dewey is the most inconsistently written character, most inconsistent character in terms of character traits throughout the entire franchise. I will say, and I know I said we weren't going to talk about the sequels, what they did with him in the last Scream film, I really liked.
Me too.
So, but 2, 3, and 4, he started to annoy the fuck out of me. I mean, it was just the character was all over the place. Like Dewey, even from Scream to Scream 2, it's virtually almost not the same character in some respects. I'll leave it at there. But we are introduced to lovely Dewey and Sheriff, who, we keep getting hinted at that something bad happened to Sydney or somebody, her mother, a year prior. It's not really revealed here yet, but they are all very like walking on eggshells with talking to Sydney about what just happened. Nobody there is like accusing her. Nobody there is really thinking she did anything. It's just the fact that they're calling every student in. So it's like lip service, but they're being very sensible and aware to her and what she's gone through.
We do have to acknowledge here that we do get a great, larger than a cameo, not quite a supporting role. The principal is played by the iconic Henry Winkler, the Fonz, who is great in any role he takes on. I mean, he is such a great actor and such a likable guy. I always love anything I see with Henry Winkler in general, and the way he is in this role, he's definitely kind of a prick, and he acts all very holier than thou when he's in front of the kids, but then you get to see a little bit of him behind the scenes, and he's really just kind of a fucking dick. But he's so good at it. He does these weird little things that are like these little quirks. Like he at one point like caresses Sydney's chin. And it's like no principal would get away with that like today at all. Like he cups it in his fingers. He's like, everything will be fine. And it's so creepy. He's just such a creepy character. But it works well. It works well in the context of everything that's going on.
Well, even when he does that, the sheriff even gives him kind of a questionable look. Everyone's a suspect, so you have to give all these characters certain little things that make you think, uh-oh, he's creepy. Could he be the killer? After this scene, we go to the iconic, there's that word again, but I'm telling you, the iconic scene where our group of young kids are sitting in front of the fountain. So you have Stu, you have them all there. Billy was with Sydney, you have Stu and Tatum, and you have Randy.
So many films, I think, have tried to capture this setup sequence. Like when you think of like an introduction sequence to a group of focal characters, I can't think of a film that does it better. Like they pop these beautiful model-esque individuals, all Caucasian. It is surprising how white these people are, but other than that, they're all very beautiful and they're all great in their roles. I gotta say that like everyone here is perfectly cast. The chemistry between these kids is just, it's electric, and I think that's why it translates so well. And yeah, it's really, it's iconic because the chemistry here is just so fire between these people.
Oh, their banter back and forth feels so natural, and this is when we find out that Stu actually dated Casey, and that's when he says, "Oh yeah," for like 2 seconds. It's just, yeah, you're right. Their chemistry, their interactions with each other is just off the charts. Yeah, and even in some of these subsequent films that have come after this, that none of them have been able to capture like the the energy and the magic of this particular cast, I think. Sydney does ask, how do you gut somebody? And Stu gives his little ominous, well, you take a knife and you shove it in and you cut him from groin to sternum. And Billy's like, it's called tack,
I
dickwad.
gotta say that I have, like, around this era of my life, I had such a prominent crush on Matthew Lillard. Because I don't know, it's just something about him. He's so lanky. You know, he's got a big fucking dick. Like, there's no way that fucker isn't well endowed. I can't imagine it being otherwise. And he's just like got like a goofiness to him. But this character really, like, it just plays off of all of his skill sets, all of his talents, his sense of humor. I think Stu is one of the most believable characters in this film because he just seems like such like a kind of shitty, like asshole-ish college student who just is kind of a like the jokester of his social circle and always making jabs at people and a little bit off. And as we learn, actually at the end of the movie, very off. But he channels all of these traits into this character to make a very believable depiction of someone who I believe would be capable of doing the things he ends up doing. It all makes sense after everything comes out who the killers actually are, you know? And if you watch Stu's quirks and how he interacts with people and how his eyes get when he talks about certain things and talks about, like, you know, certain acts of violence and everything, like, there's little things that are done by him and by both characters, by Billy as well, that I think if you go back, you revisit it, it's very clear the characters who are, you know, behind the mask. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their body language. Sometimes they don't have the restraint they think they do.
Yeah, I like the Stu character. I love that he brings these just hilarious mannerisms and whatnot to the character just to add that much more depth to the Stu character. He does also make a joke about, well, Randy is like, is it true they found her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard they found her liver in the mailbox next to her spleen. And Tatum's like, oh, shut up, and Stu's like, oh, you're making her mad, Randy. You better live her alone. Get it? Live her alone.
Oh my god, all of these characters have great senses of humor, to be honest. This franchise is built off of elements of humor. Scream has never been completely dry and totally serious, and so it does well having actors involved who are, comedians at heart. I mean, same with Randy, Jamie Kennedy. He really thrives in moments in which he has to be funny, and so they made the character funny, and it does him very well, and the little voices he does and everything, it works great. As we said, the chemistry is fantastic. I like even little moments, like there's a transition here that cuts to the school bus pulling up to drop off Sydney, and they even managed to make like these little transitions ominous because there's like a stinger, like a dramatic stinger to the school bus, and it's like it shouldn't be scary, but it still feels like it is. But this does lead into a really cool sequence where you first you see Sydney's home, which is on a beautiful plot of land with these rolling hills, trees. My God,
Oh, I
take me
know.
there. Beautiful.
What's her dad do? Want to know what her dad does for a living? This house it's isolated. It's on like a bluff, and it just overlooks the hills of Woodsboro.
Beautiful. It's
Apparently,
beautiful. And so Sydney is she's chatting with Tatum. She's going out later. She sits down. She watches some TV. And of course, Gail's just already being a bitch, talking about Maureen Prescott being brutally raped and murdered. And Sydney's done with it. She doesn't want to hear about it, her mother being raped and murdered. So she mopes for a moment, recollecting times with her deceased mother, who is photographed around the house. And as the sun sets, she passes out, and she wakes up to a phone call from Tatum, who is on her way to pick her up.
but she's gonna stop at the video store first because she's gonna rent All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise. Because if you pause it just right, you can see his penis.
Oh my God. Remember the days, Troy, where it was that desperate? Like, you literally had to, like, get a VHS from the
Oh
video
yeah.
store that you know had a dick hidden in it, fast forward it, and then pause it so you could jack off to a still frame of a penis.
These young gays do not know how good they have it. I'm telling you.
Oh my God. Literally, right now, I could be watching porn. You guys wouldn't even know it. I could literally just be sitting here watching porn on my phone. It's so easy. Back then, you're watching all the right moves, looking for Tom Cruise's fucking penis.
You were looking for Tom Cruise's penis. I was holding a recorder up to my radio so that I could record a Mariah Carey song when it came on the radio.
Was it Hero? Was it you? Like, sitting there weeping to Mariah Carey's Hero?
It was Emotions.
Oh, of course. Oh, a classic. I understand why. I mean, God. I get the desperation with that. All of this does, though, build up to what is, I think, a really great sequence and introduction for Sydney to be a target of Ghostface. This scene really sets the groundwork for what ends up being Ghostface's sole purpose over the course of this movie. It's really to kind of make Sydney the focus of everything he's doing.
Oh, it's a great scene. This whole scene is just wonderful. And the backdrop of this large isolated house, and you get shots of just the hills beyond as the sun is setted and it's dark and there's no lights on in the house. After she hangs up from Tatum, and the voice just says, "Hello, Sydney." And she's like, hello. And who is this? And he's like, "Do you like scary movies?" And she thinks it's Randy. Ultimately, she ends up thinking it's Randy because Randy is a horror movie nerd, as we come to find out. And she's like, "No, I don't like that shit. It's just some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be running out the front door. It's insulting."
Eventually, this dialogue again unfolds to reveal that it's clearly not Randy. When the killer basically says to Sydney, the question isn't who am I? The question is where am I? And so Sydney steps outside because she's convinced the killer's bluffing. She does this whole thing where she pretends to be picking her nose, saying like, "What am I doing? What am I doing?" And the killer, he bluffs. He doesn't follow up. And so she goes back inside the house, and this is when Sydney is attacked. She's attacked with the killer who has been inside the closet.
It jumps out of the closet and attacks her. Yeah. Throws her down on the ground, gets ready to bashes her head into the floor, even gets ready to stab her, and she kicks him in the nuts, runs upstairs. He follows her, and she gets to her room. And this is the point where she shuts the door and opens the closet door so that the killer can't get in. The door is blockaded, it's barricaded. She tries to call 911. The phone's off the hook, so she does it on her computer. And just as she types in, 911, what's your emergency? Billy pops through the window and comes into the room, and she's frantic. She's like, "The killer's here, Billy, the killer's here." And as she's hugging him and he's embracing her, he's like, "Oh, it's all right. It's all right." A cell phone falls out of his pocket. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Coming up to this moment, like leading up to this point, one thing about Sydney that I kind of do want to take a moment to shine a light on and acknowledge would be the fact that from right off the bat, Sydney is a character who knows how to defend herself. I think one of the reasons that so many fanboys and girls adore Sydney Prescott is because she has always been capable. She's always thought fast, and she's always acted in her best interest whenever she's being attacked or defending herself. I think one of the things that the latest Scream did really well, and not to go off on a tangent because I'm not going to, but it kind of let us have a moment where it's like, by this point, girl is done. This ain't her first rodeo, and she is still a badass to this day. And I love that they've maintained that aspect of who Sydney is, because I really do think that is one of the defining traits of Sydney Prescott that draws so many people in. She is capable, and she will kick ass, and you want to see that from her. I think we cheer for Sydney Prescott because she never half-asses it. She's getting thrown down steps. She's getting thrown out windows onto boats. She's running. She's fighting. She's bleeding. She always gets her ass kicked, but she doesn't give the fuck up. she always gets back up, and you want to see her win.
Well, and she's bold. Like when the killer first calls her and tells her, there's that moment where she's like, "Well, where are you?" And he's like, "Your front porch." And she's like, "Why would you be calling from my front porch?" He's like, "That's the original part." Anyways, she actually has the balls to go out there and open the door, go out on the front porch, and is like, "I'm calling your bluff." And then there's that very ominous moment where she gets ready to hang up on him. And he's like, "Don't you hang up on me, you little bitch, or I'll kill you just like your mother." "Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure did." And she's like, "Fuck you, you cretin." I mean, yeah, she's not, you're not going to frighten her. She's going to go out and she's going to confront you, which it really is a unique trait to give your final girl. Cause generally we're used to them being meek and mild and not stepping up until they absolutely have to.
Yeah, no, she's definitely a character who has always had inner strength, and they've allowed her to explore that and develop that and evolve upon that over the course of the movies. And so that's why I always enjoy seeing Nev Campbell in these kinds of roles, because she gets it, and she's a former dancer. So whenever you see girl fall into a situation or a position where she's having to be physical and fight, I mean, there is always an elegance to it. She can really make it seem like it's really physical and brutal. She's just really good at fight sequences in general. Nev Campbell is always giving it her all in these sequences.
Well, she sees the cell phone and she thinks that obviously it's an ominous sign that Billy is the killer. So she takes off running. She runs downstairs. She opens the front door to run out. And it's that scene where Dewey is standing at her front door holding the ghost face mask in a weird, awkward position. I don't know why he would be doing that. And he screams and she screams. And ultimately, what ends up happening is Billy gets arrested. Gail shows up and is like, "Is that Sidney Prescott? Tell us what's happening." And Tatum's like, "No, leave us alone. You're a pain in the ass."
Look, Kenny, I realize that you're about 50 pounds overweight, but when I say hurry, please interpret that as move your fat tub of lard ass now.
Yes,
I love her.
love it.
God, I love her. I get why the gays respond to Gale Weathers. And I will celebrate Courtney Cox's ever evolving plastic face for as long as I can. She's so good in this role.
She is this ring. I mean, again, this is a role that was just made for her. It fits her like a glove, and she just inhabits the Gale Weathers character so well. So they take Sydney to the police station. Her dad is not registered at the Hilton. They can't locate him. And the sheriff is interrogating Billy, asking him why he would have a cell phone. And the Billy's dad is there with him and is like, "Why don't you just trace the numbers?" And the sheriff's like, "Oh, thank you. We're on that. Okay." And there's this moment also when after the sheriff is done questioning Billy, that Billy turns around and like glares at Sydney like with a very scowling, uncomfortable look.
I love overall I love this whole moment kind of evolving within the police station, because it is allowing the media moment to develop and grow. It's clear that this is becoming a bigger to do, and individuals like Gail are really feeding into it, because they also have their own personal kind of reasons for it to wanting it to blow up into something big, which is such like a unique angle to Gail's character, because she's such an anti-hero in a way. Like, she makes some really awful choices. She's really selfish. Like, she really she doesn't seem to really care about people for the most part until you get to know her better. But it does come across that she's really kind of like just wanting to capitalize off of all of this. And so with this whole thing with the jail, as everything's going on inside with like Nev, not being able to face Billy, who's just glaring at her through a window. Um, Eventually leading up to this moment where Nev does have a confrontation with Gale, it's immensely satisfying. Like, what ends up happening is so fucking satisfying, because it ends up basically that Tatum and Sydney decide that they're going to sneak out the back to leave, to avoid the media circus that's happening outside. And of course, fucking Gale and Kenny come sneaking around the corner, and they see them and they come running up. And there's this really tense awkward moment there between the two girls where basically you know something's going on already. It's been kind of implied, but finally you have Sydney kind of turn to Gail and say, "How's the book?" And Gail's like, "Oh, it'll be out later this year." And Sydney's like, "I'll look for it. I'll send you a copy." And Sydney just fucking right hooks the girl to the jaw and drops her to the fucking ground. And you're like, "Yes, bitch." You're like, "Yes, this is the kind of broad I want to root for." Yes, like I love it. It's so good.
Especially when you know the reason why why Sydney is initially so upset. It makes sense. Although we got to say, Gail was right. I mean, she was right about Cotton and the Weary the whole time. So
Such an interesting angle for that, to be honest, when you think about it, because like you know you love the character of Sydney. You think she's all wonderful and pure, but she also did falsely accuse a man of murder. Like this is a layer to her onion, and so it does make her seem rather flawed. Though she's a great person and a great character, she's also made her own mistakes.
which she feels guilty about, as we find out in some of the subsequent films. In Tatum, they go back to Tatum's house. They're in her room. Tatum is all excited that Sydney's a bad bitch. For bam, bitch went down. I'll send you a copy. Bam, bitch went down. Sid, super bitch. Anyways, she gets a call. Tatum's mom comes in the bedroom and's like, "Oh, it's a phone call for Sid." So Sydney goes out and answers the phone, thinking it's could be her dad, or she doesn't know. And we get the voice, "Hello, Sydney." And we are just like, "Oh, fuck." And the voice is like, poor Billy boyfriend. Looks like you fingered the wrong guy again. Sydney is like, "Oh my God." And Dewey rushes in with his gun. Like, I like when he takes the phone from Sydney, he picks it up and he's like, in a very stern voice, "Hello."
The next morning, we hear the name Cotton Weary. This starts to come into play, and it's one of the really great things I think about the series in general is how it has lots of plot points and lots of themes that are allowed to develop over multiple movies. Because the character of Cotton Weary is very much just like a side note overall over the course of this whole film, and the fact that he becomes a bigger role as the movie progresses is I think really like a great developmental tool for making this whole universe feel really rich and connected. But you hear the name for the first time. It's a very important name in the overall Scream mythology. We also learned that Billy's phone records came back clean.
I do. Yeah. I mean, having the Cotton character become such a prominent part of, the Scream franchise. Again, I think it was obviously careful planning on Kevin Williams's part when he was writing the treatments for the trilogy. I mean, so it's really interesting to see how much he wasn't in this first film. I mean, we literally get one news video of him getting in the back of a police car is all we get of Cotton Weary and Scream one, but then he comes back for 2 and 3, and it's just such a prominent force in those films. Well, 2, maybe not 3 so much. So Dewey takes Sydney, drops her off at school again, full of news anchors and camera crews, including Linda Blair, who runs up. "What's it feel like to be almost brutally butchered?" What a question to ask some poor girl just trying to go to class. "People want to know. They have a right to know." I love that they gave Linda Blair something to do other than, promote her animal welfare thing that she does, which I love, but I'm glad she got to come and be part of another iconic horror franchise, even if it is a cameo.
Well, this whole franchise is notorious for phenomenal cameos. I mean, Carrie fucking Fisher.
Yeah.
I mean, come on now. You don't get better than that. You don't get better than that. No, I'm sorry. So yeah, I love it as well. And there's one little thing just because we haven't even really touched on the score, which is fucking phenomenal, beginning to end. But I really love the score. I think it's really great when Sydney arrives at the school and confronts Gail. Outfit number 2, by the way, a great coat, not quite the electric green, 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Is this the red jacket?
This is the red jacket,
Yeah.
sensible. It does go to a 5 out of 5 when we throw the jacket, the gold jacket on later. Then that completes the ensemble.
Yeah. So Sydney decides to go confront Gail, and this is when we find out Sydney's hostility towards Gale stems from her writing a book. And in the book, Gale blatantly calls Sydney a liar and is putting forth the theory that Cotton Weary was framed and that Sidney Prescott misidentified him on the stand. You know, Sydney's like, no, he killed my mother. I saw him leave the house wearing that jacket. And Gale's like, no, you saw someone leave the house wearing that jacket. The same someone that planted it in the back of his car, framing him. Sydney's like, no, you're wrong. And Gale can see some hesitation in Sydney's face. So she recognizes the fact that Sydney might not be so sure anymore that Cotton Weary was the killer of her mother. And Tatum comes and gets Sydney and takes her away. Sydney apologizes. She's like, I'm sorry I mangled your face. And Gale is just thrilled. She's like, oh my God, Kenny, an innocent man in jail, and I can free him. I could change a man's life. And Kenny like gets a smile on his face, like, oh my God, this woman actually has a soul. And then she's like, do you know what that could do for my book sales?
Here we are, the anti-hero. She's very self-obsessed, but I still fucking love her. I can't get enough of her. I love also any moment of dialogue between these two gals because their relationship evolves so much over the course of the whole franchise. But at this point, like, they're very cold towards each other. They're very distant. Sydney obviously has issues with Gale, understandably so. So this is a relationship that I really love to see kind of what it flourishes into, especially within this last movie. Like, if they got one thing right, it was that camaraderie. Give me more of that. But two strong, powerful women. And when they're on camera together, they play off each other very, very well.
Inside the school, there are kids that are running around in the Ghostface costume, just running down the hallway screaming. It bothers Sydney. So while she's talking to Stu and Tatum, she's like, why are they doing this? And Stu's like, are you blind? Look at it. It's like Christmas in here. So Sydney takes off running down the hallway because she's like, but I guess they're kids, but come on, like, how shitty of a thing is that to do? Which it also really pisses off Principal Himbery, as we find out here in a few minutes. But as Sydney's running down the hall, she bumps into Billy, and they have this confrontation where, you know, if I didn't really think Billy was an asshole based on the first scene of the film, this is where it kind of cements it for me, because he basically tells her that she needs to get over the fact that her mother's dead. His mother left him and he got over it. And Sydney's like, there's a big difference. Your mother left you. You can still talk to her or visit her. My mother's laying in a coffin. And so this just irritates her even more. So she's like, fuck you. She takes off, and, you know, she's like, Sydney, come back. And she's like, I'm sorry that my traumatized past is an interruption to you and your perfect existence. Very much Dawson's Creek-like dialogue. Can we also state that there are so many lines in this film that sound like they were ripped right from Dawson's Creek, and that is one of them. That is something that Joey would say in Dawson's Creek.
Oh, I've got to say, I love everything that Nev Campbell touches, but I do prefer Anna Faris's delivery of, I'm sorry if my traumatized life is an inconvenience for you and your perfect existence. Like, when she does it in Scary Movie and she runs off with her hands flailing over it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, I mean, very Dawson's Creek.
I love Anna Faris's performance in Scary Movie too. I mean, I just love Anna Faris, but I mean, I think people might have forgotten that that's kind of where she got her big start at, was being the Sidney Prescott of Scary Movie, and she nailed it.
She nailed it so well. It's so fucking good. And Henry Winkler, we get more of him as Principal Hembree. He's so aggressive to these students, these two male students. Again, this would not fly at all these days, as he's physically accosting these two men and threatening their lives and calling them pieces of shit.
With a pair of scissors. He's chopping at them with the scissors. No, fair would be to gut you little bastards. And yeah, he's calling them pieces of shit and that he should gut them. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like the sole purpose of this scene was to paint him as okay, this is a killer. Because you were right. Even in the 90s, I mean, this was 96. That would not fly. That would not fly.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, today, God forbid, today you even look at a kid wrong, and your fucking parents are going to be up at the school demanding that you be fired.
I think we
Trust
need
me.
to be a little more 1996 these days, to be real. I'm gonna be honest. At
Yeah.
least in the schools, I think we can afford to get a little more Henry Winkler. Not maybe to that extreme, but
Don't get me started, Roger, because I'm in education, and we know right now that there is a major teacher shortage in this country. Teacher shortage. See, and I want to throw that out there. I was super smart to name my film Teacher
Oh my
Shortage
God.
because
the timing.
there is a huge teacher shortage. So when people are Googling teacher shortage, my movie comes up. But no, it is because, and everyone's trying to make these outlandish excuses for why teachers are leaving the profession. Oh, it's blah, blah. No, it is because kids fucking get away with anything they want to today. There is zero consequences. Teachers you can't even give it attention to a kid anymore. Admit you don't suspend kids anymore. Kids have zero consequences and they know it. So yeah, maybe some Henry Winkler form of discipline might, minus the scissors in the face, but something has to come to a head, or I'm telling you, there's going to be a massive shortage of teachers, and it's just going to be
Kids in the
not
streets.
good.
Just, what else? Yeah.
All you parents that were bitching that your kids had to be at home all day on Zoom, you better get fucking used to it. If you don't stop, bad mouthing teachers and getting on teachers' asses about disciplining your kid or telling your kid no.
Kids can be fucking bitches. They can be absolute fucking bitches. Much like the two girls that Sydney encounters in the bathroom.
These fucking broads.
broads.
These girls are so 90s, especially the one with her like tight pink jeans and that fucking stupid clip in her hair.
Oh my God. And immediately they're accusing Sydney of killing Casey and Steve. They're calling her a whore. They're implying that she's homicidal. They're really like just shit talking her. And Sydney's just sitting there in the stall taking it. And the one's like, she even has a bubble butt boyfriend in Billy. Like they're talking about how like Billy's too hot for her. And they're just really tearing Sydney a new one, this poor thing. And then they like waddle out. And Sydney comes out and she's weeping. And this leads to another really great moment with the killer.
But do you really think this was there's been some debate about this, I've heard. Do you really think this was one of the killers? Or do you think this was a student that was just playing a practical joke? It kind of doesn't make sense that it would be one of the real killers.
I think one of the things about this moment that makes it work is the fact that it's vague. Because there are lots of hijinks going on within the school, and it all builds up to the school eventually being classes are put on hold until everything's brought under control. And so I think it's kind of cool that they leave it something that's not completely clear or answered.
Oh yeah, it's handled really well. I mean, his feet come off the toilet and you see he's wearing these black boots and he drops the black gown down, and then as she's running out of the bathroom, he jumps out of the stall and she literally has to slide under him to get out. But notice that he didn't have a knife. So I think that's kind of the theory that it could have just been a random student actually is probably pretty accurate. And there's a couple other moments with a ghost face appearing in random places where I'm pretty sure there's no possible logistical way that it is one of the real killers. So she runs out of the bathroom and she doesn't really tell anybody except Tatum. She tells Tatum, but like my ass would be going to the fucking front office, but get the fucking police here right now.
Well, I'm curious, Troy, do you think that the reason that the school is put on like hold, how they pause classes, do you think it's because she's attacked? Because I almost like the way it's cut, there's like a transition, all of a sudden they're like, and now classes are on hold.
That could be.
Yeah,
You're
so
right.
I was curious.
I guess I've never thought about that. I just thought that the classes were canceled just because of all of but maybe, yeah, I'm sure maybe she did do the good thing and go to principal and be like, hey, somebody just attacked me in the bathroom. Because there is that line that Stu's like, I don't know what you did, Sydney, but on behalf of the student body, we thank you. Woo! And, Stu suggests that they're going to have a big old party at his house that night. And he is adamant that Sydney come, and she agrees. In the meantime, Gail runs into Dewey for the first time, and she is just laying on the charm. She is just acting like she wants that dick.
Oh, and he is buying into it.
Oh yeah, she's like, oh, you don't look a day past 12, except maybe in that manly chest area. Do you work? Does the force require you to work out? He's like, no, ma'am. I do it because of my boyish good looks, and I think that it makes people take me more seriously, or whatever the line is. But they are just having some very just flirtatious banter back and forth, and it plays off very well. And their chemistry together is palpable, and you can completely see why they ended up getting married in real life after filming this.
Well, and one thing I really love about their relationship, and I think that it has done their characters really well, is the fact that, obviously they eventually divorced. Like, they separated, but they've always maintained a really good working relationship and a good co parenting situation. And they are super respectful of each other. They still continue to play these characters, well, up until the last film, obviously, off opposite each other. And I think it's only enhanced their chemistry, the fact that these two have been through some shit together, it makes for a really very realistic, believable, just rich relationship for these two characters. And I get why they would want to bring Dewey back, simply based off of seeing the two of them opposite each other, because there's such a charm to it.
Yeah, I mean the two, it's like I said, it's no surprise, but by the second film, she was Courtney Cox Arquette, right? Because they do have some pretty palpable chemistry throughout this film. Now we cut to the scene where Principal Hembry is in his office, and he gets killed. I mean, he's sitting there playing with the ghost face mask. Somebody knocks on his door. He looks out. There's nobody there. Goes back in his office. Here's another knock. So he goes out and looks again, and we get the Wes Craven cameo wearing his Freddy Krueger red and green Freddy Krueger sweater.
That's actually the Nightmare on Elm Street joke I was referring to earlier.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That being like because I think that's like, out of all the Easter eggs you could ever possibly get, don't tell me that's not like the best of the best. When Henry Winkler is like, "Oh, sorry, Fred," like the fact he even like calls him Fred, like it's so stupid. It's so obvious, that goddamn sweater, but it's so good. I love it.
Oh yeah, it's a fun, and for Wes Craven to actually be the one in the sweater, and it's quite clever. But he goes back into his office, and he is immediately stabbed to death by Ghostface. He closes his door, and Ghostface comes out and stabs the shit out of him.
It's a good kill because he gives such a great reaction. Like, he gets stabbed, and he's like, "Ah!" Like, he screams at the top of his lungs, and it's brutal. Like, it is pretty brutal. There's that really awesome shot involving the reflection of his eye, where you see like the ghost face mask in the reflection. There's some of that gloss we talked about at the beginning of the review, the glossiness, the production value of this film. It's way more than you'd get in the slashers that came before it. It feels very Hollywood.
Oh yeah, it's just little inklings of shots like that are just kind of show the extra care and extra thought that went into making this film appear a lot more glossy and high budget than a traditional slasher film would. And I appreciate that. So Hembry's dead. I guess there is a reason why it happened, right? I mean, that was one of the things when I first saw the movie. I kind of was questioning why Hembry is killed, but then I guess it's explained later in the film.
It's a motivator to get everyone out of the party.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that the first time I saw that. So Tatum and Sid are on her porch, and this is where we get the conversation where Tatum is, hey, maybe your mother deserved her reputation. You can only hear a rumor so long before there has to be some truth to it. Like, look at the Richard Gere gerbil rumor. Sydney's like, well, what if I was wrong about Cotton Weary? That means that the killer is still out there. And Tatum has the line, oh, don't talk like that. You're starting to sound like some Wes Carpenter flick.
Well played.
Another little Easter egg that's thrown
really
in.
well
Yeah. In the meantime, there is a ghost face figure randomly in the woods. I don't know why.
I love the shot though.
Doesn't make any.
I love the zoom in.
It's a cool shot, but like thinking about it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, And then he appears in the grocery store later here in a few scenes. Like, you're trying to tell me nobody saw in this grocery store, nobody saw fucking Ghostface in the grocery store? And that one doesn't make sense because at the same time, the guys are in the video store, right?
But speaking of video store, man, does this scene not make you like yearn for the days of video stores? Like this feels so like the energy I remember when I was in like my like sixth, seventh, eighth grade year, and we'd go into a Blockbuster when they were still bustling and they were still crammed with people, and the movie you wanted was not always there, and you'd be so fucking affected by it. Like this scene really made me feel a yearning for that. I will say that.
Oh, it's so nostalgic, so nostalgic. I used to work in a video store. I was Randy. Literally. I worked at Hollywood Video in Davenport, Iowa, across from the fairgrounds. Anybody in Iowa was listening, it used to be Hollywood Video. And then when I was going to college at the University of Iowa, I worked at a Mr. Movies in Marion, Iowa. And I was very much a Randy. I was the horror movie aficionado. Like, all of my customers that were regulars knew that I was the one to ask about horror movie recommendations. And I remember we were, you remember when you go into a video store and there's all the TVs around and they were playing different movies and stuff? Like, we got to pick the movies that we could play, but the stipulation was you were only supposed to play like G-rated movies. And when I worked, especially when I closed, on Friday or Saturday night by about 9:00, I'd be putting in Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I love it.
I'm surprised I didn't get fired, but hey, it was worth it. But yeah, so yeah, definitely nostalgia. So we get this very, another standout scene in a video store, which shows that one of them, because this happens immediately after the Sydney and Tatum scene at her house where we see Ghostface in the woods. So obviously, if Randy and Stu are or Billy and Stu are in the video store, they can't be in the woods. I don't know. It's weird. But this is where Randy's accusing Billy of being the killer. And he is like, and Stu's like, why would Billy want to kill his girlfriend? And Randy's like, there's always some bullshit reason to kill your girlfriend. And then Stu suggests it could be Sid's dad. Like, why can't they find her pops? And Randy is like, you know what? There's a very simple formula to figuring this out. If they'd watch Prom Night, they would know. Everyone's a suspect. But he is adamant that Billy did it. And he tells Stu one final time, I think Billy did it. He's like, the Sydney dad's a red herring. It's Billy Loomis. Billy is right behind him, overhears it, and is like, how do we know you're not the killer? And Randy's like, yeah, obviously I would be a prime suspect. The next scene, the town is shutting down for curfew.
There's this moment where Dewey is escorting Tatum and Sydney. And there's another great bit discussing who would play Sydney in a movie about the murders. Like, if they were to make a movie based on the murders, who would play her? And she has this line where she says, with my luck, I guess Tori Spelling. And again, one of these really great self-aware moments where that very much carries over into the next film. Like, it's what happens. Like, the fact that they managed to make that happen is so genius to me. And I love just the overall awareness that this whole franchise has in general. It's very aware of what it is and the fan base it's playing to. So there's so much time with these characters you get to spend with them, just kind of like bantering and talking amongst each other. And so nobody ever feels underwritten or without purpose. I think one of the best things about this movie is like how I'd say every film we've reviewed, Troy, every slasher, every movie, there's always one or two characters where we feel they don't feel properly utilized. And I don't think there's a single character in this cast who isn't allowed to be fleshed out into something with personality and purpose,
Particularly like with the sheriff. I mean, this particular scene with the sheriff where he's telling Dewey that the calls were traced back to Neil Prescott, and that they need to find out where he's at ASAP, put out a bulletin, try to locate him. And then there's this scene where this whole time Dewey is looking on this ice cream cone.
Very gay. With that porn stash mustache.
And the sheriff drops his cigarette and puts it out, and we see that he has the same black boots that the killer has been wearing the entire film.
Everyone is a goddamn suspect.
Everyone, that's the thing. Everyone's a suspect. You got to go with it. There is I already mentioned it, but there's a scene in the grocery store where Tatum and Sid are buying groceries and and Sid's talking about maybe Billy is right, that maybe she is the reason why their relationship has gone south, because she just needs to move on from the trauma and she's sexually anorexic. You see the Ghostface reflection in the glass door of the freezer. Ghostface is just everywhere, apparently.
Night falls and the party is underway, and Gail's van like hovers on the edge of the property as people begin to arrive. We get a moment where there's more flirtation between Gail and Dewey when he arrives by the van, and she weasels her way into joining him, into venturing into the house. And as she grabs her jacket, it's a good fucking jacket, that gold jacket. She grabs a small camera and plants it in the pocket.
Yeah, and she goes into the house with Dewey. While the group, Sydney is looking at a bunch of video cassettes, and she's like, "Why is Jamie Lee Curtis in all these movies?" And Randy's like, "Because she is the Scream Queen." And there's also this whole, I mean, through the last 40 minutes of this film, the movie Halloween is playing prominently, which is also a very, nice touch, I think, because sometimes what is happening on the screen is mirroring what is happening in Halloween, is mirroring what is happening in the film.
Yeah. Well, even the score, they use the score of Halloween
Mm-hmm.
in the favor of Scream. They incorporate it into the moment. So as the music is building and swelling within the sequence within Halloween, it's also affecting the moment that's happening within the movie as well, which is a really great touch. So Dewey's just hanging out with all of the teens, which has thrown me off. He's like allowing them to underage drink. He's showing off Gail. Partygoers are flocking to Gail, informing her they watch her show religiously. And she's discreetly hiding the camera under the television as she's kind of talking these people up. So now there is this camera planted within the party that Kenny is able to watch. Her cameraman, Kenny, is watching back at the van.
Yeah, but he does realize that there's a 30-second delay on the camera. Based the footage that he's watching is actually 30 seconds behind. Tatum, in the meantime, Stu has asked her to go get some beers from the garage. So she goes, her and her nipples go into the garage.
Those nipples.
Uh, one of the more iconic shots from the film, obviously, is Tatum in the doorway of the garage with those nipples just piercing out of her top.
They had to ice cube those nipples before the scene. Like, don't tell me that there wasn't someone on hand, ice cubes in hand, to rub them on Rose McGowan's nipples. No wonder she went so fucking Me Too movement with those nipples protruding, cutting through glass like nobody's business. But, I mean, nipples aside, this really is, again, another, and we've been using this word constantly, but how can I not say iconic sequence? How can we not acknowledge this garage sequence? It's one of the best kills in the last, I don't know, what is it, 30 years? Like, I mean, like, it really, this whole scene is so fucking great.
Yeah, as she's getting the beers from the fridge, she turns around to get out of the garage, to go out of the garage. Ghostface shows up. And she's like, "Oh, what is this? What film is this from? I Spit on Your Garage." And she goes right up to him because she also thinks that's Randy. And she's like, "What do we play? Do you want to play Psycho Killer?" And she says, "Can I be the helpless victim?" And Ghostface shakes his head. And she's like, "Oh, okay. How's this? Please, Mr. Ghostface, don't kill me. I want to be in the sequel." It is important to mention that this is the first time the killer is called Ghostface. So Rose McGowan gets the distinction of actually giving this killer his moniker.
Yeah, yeah. And it does seem very jokey at first. She thinks it's just one of the friends, and then he pretty quickly grabs her by the arm and slices her arm, and she is made well aware that this is not all fun and games. But again, I will appreciate that this is a female character that who, as soon as she's put in a position of danger, she fights back. I mean, girl doesn't make it, let's be real, but she sure puts up a fucking fight. She smacks him in the head with the goddamn freezer door. She's throwing beer bottles at him. She squats down and causes him to flip over her back. I mean, she puts up a fight, but then she tries to climb through that goddamn like kitty door, like that like doggy door in the garage, and her knockers are so big that she's stuck in there, and her big old ass is stuck with that beautiful that skirt that's got that psychedelic swirl on it. I mean, like literally, like who put her in that skirt? It's all ass, that skirt. And I mean, she makes it pretty damn easy for Ghostface to just, turn the button on the garage door and then turn it on and it starts going up.
Oh yeah, the image of her trying to get out of that doggy door. It's not supposed to be funny, but I mean, she had to have known she wasn't going to fit through that little hole. Come on.
Well, that's why in Scary Movie they parodied it with Melissa Jarrett Winokur, who is a plus size woman trying to do the
Uh,
exact same like thing, and she's like trying to climb through that door, and it's just like they know there's no way she's getting through that door. But you know what? I guess in that moment, it's like, what the fuck do I do? Like, what do I
yeah, I
do?
guess you're desperate. But what ends up happening is her head gets crushed very violently as the garage door raises up to the top of the garage. It's pretty. I hate the sound too. It makes the cracking when her head gets crushed. So I'm like, ugh.
And the lights are all flashing, like it's like causing the garage to like spark and short circuit and everything because of the pressure of it. It's very very gruesome and very violent.
Right after this, coincidentally, Billy shows up to the party. He is there to talk to Sid, and
Of course he is.
yeah, and Sid is. I'm sorry. And Stu is very kind to suggest they go upstairs to his parents' bedroom to talk. And as Randy comes into the foyer, he's like, "What's Leatherface doing here?" And there's this also overarching kind of conversation that Stu and Randy have been having in terms of Randy wanting to know if he would possibly have a chance with Sid. And so there's this moment where Randy's like, "Oh, great, there goes my chance with Sid." And Stu's like, "Oh, all I can say is as if." And Randy walks away. He's like, "Okay, whatever, Alicia." So there's all kinds of little references to not even other horror movies, but other teen movies in general, which I can appreciate. Gail gets back to the van to watch the video with Kenny, and this is when he realizes that they're on a 30-second delay because she's back already, and she's just leaving the house in the video. Okay, and that does come into play here. It's not like it's just some random plot point. So Billy and Sid are upstairs in this bedroom, and Sydney actually apologizes to Billy for being basically she's hinting at that she's been a bad girlfriend and that she cannot keep wallowing in the grief of her mother's death or denying who her mother really was. Now she's realizing one of her biggest fears is she's going to turn out like her mother. Billy's like, this is like in Silence of the Lambs when Jodie Foster can't quit hearing, the cry of the lamb. And Sydney's like, but this is real. It's not a movie, Billy. This is real life.
Billy makes so many references to horror movies, like that alone is such a hint. Like when you go back, like he makes the Exorcist acknowledgement earlier in the film. He acknowledges Silence of the Lambs. Like it is another little detail if you look for it. It's kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. The chemistry between these two is fucking hot. Like when they do finally start like kind of making out and going at it, like the chemistry is hot. It's hot. These are two beautiful people. I mean, like just go into town, getting it done.
Well, yeah, they have sex. She says she wants to be in a porn. So they literally start going at it, and it's pretty gets pretty hot and heavy. The group downstairs is watching Halloween. Basically, this is the scene where Randy goes through the rules to survive a horror movie. You don't know the rules. Never have sex, never drink or do drugs, and never say you'll be right back.
I love, and I just need to acknowledge for a moment Jamie Kennedy. I love his voice. There's something about Randy's voice and the way he delivers this dialogue. There's like a little bit of like a sound to it almost. He's like, rule one, never have sex. Rule two, never drink or do drugs. Like it's almost like he has like a weird like kind of like a hint of a Jersey accent or something. I don't know. I'm assuming it's just Jamie Kennedy, but it's just the way he delivers this dialogue. There's such a pop of personality to it that for a character that is killed off in the second installment of the series, his character is still very much like sustained and remained a fan favorite amongst diehard fans of the franchise, and I get why. He really represents us. He represents a lot of the diehard fans who know the rules of the franchise and or of the genre, and know how things are to be anticipated, what to expect, what to predict, and he speaks the language. He knows the jargon, and I really love that they kind of kept true to that with the latest installment and introducing his niece, because there's something about having a character like that within a film like this that makes it seem very respectful of the fans who watch
Yeah,
it.
Randy, people talk about Randy being like this very aware character in terms of rules of horror, and he is the quintessential horror movie nerd. And we remember when we reviewed it's been probably a year ago now, Evil Laugh,
Oh, I remember.
with the character of Barney.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, so Barney and Randy have a lot in common, and I think even during that episode of Evil Laugh, I even said I think Kevin Williamson had to have seen Evil Laugh,
You did say that.
because the similarities between the character of Randy and the character of Barney in Evil Laugh are, I think, too similar to be coincidental.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's a point where Barney even starts talking about, "Oh, you guys are going to have sex. You're going to be murdered." I mean, it's. And I'm not saying Kevin Williamson stole it. I love I mean, obviously he didn't. Everything he's done with the Scream script was I think, a very passionate, loving homage. But I always think about the character of Barney being so similar to Randy when I watch either film, and I just can't buy that it's coincidental at all. I mean, some of their dialogue is virtually the same in what its intent is. So after his dialogue, there is a funny little scene where Stu goes to get another beer, and he's like, "I'll be right back," and the group is like, "Oh!" They start laughing. Dewey, in the meantime, has gotten a call that there is word of a car kind of off into the woods up the road from Stu's house. So he invites Gail to go with him, and they're going to walk because it's such a beautiful night.
The romance, this budding romance between these two, it's developing.
It is developing hot and heavy, just like Sydney and Billy at this moment, because she's upstairs taking her top off, taking her bra off. At the same time, when PJ Souls is on screen in Halloween with her obligatory tit shot.
It's a very well-timed comment, though Sydney does not actually reveal her bosoms to the audience. Something I respect. I like the fact that while they've let her have sexy moments, they've never sexualized Sydney to the extent that she's been, topless or showing much skin over the course of the whole series. She's always portrayed to be somewhat pure, and I like that about her character.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was a little jarring actually to see that. I didn't ever remember we got a shot of Nev Campbell in a bra, but we do, because throughout the rest of the franchise, she's pretty much, like you said, very innocent, conservative in how she presents herself. So, but she gets it hot and heavy with Billy for sure. Randy gets a phone call, and it's somebody that tells him that Principal Henry was found dead, and he is gutted at hanging from the goalpost on the football field. So, of course, when he tells the partygoers this, they want to rush out and go look at the body before it gets taken down. And this is the moment where Gail and Dewey are walking down the street. The cars are just blaring down the road. Dewey's like, "Hey, stop, stop." And they don't stop. So he has to take Gail and jump off the side of the road. And there's this, moment where he lands on top of Gail. They start to kiss. She makes a little comment as she looks over. "Is that what you're looking for?" And he's like, "My whole life." And then she's like, "No, that." And it's a car, and it's Neil Prescott's car.
Yeah, oh, the twists and the turns, because now, if his car's been run off the road, where is Neil Prescott? Well, it's opening up a whole new can of worms in regards to the theories about who the killer could be. And I do love that this movie continues to keep you guessing literally up to the very last moment. Following their love session, Sydney questions why Billy or who Billy called when he was in jail a couple days ago. She's curious who he used his one phone call for. He says it was his father. She doubts that because she knows the sheriff called his father. And so she's kind of like trying to poke holes in his story. And he questions her doubt. But before anything can really come from it, he's quickly attacked by Ghostface, who stalks up from behind him. And Sydney's like, oh my God, shit. And before he can do anything, Ghostface stabs him multiple times in the gut and torso. And he turns around, he has blood all over his body, and he's apparently been violently stabbed and what appears to be killed. And so he collapses to the ground. And in the moment, especially if you're someone who hasn't seen it, but I remember the first time watching this was a great twist. And it totally throws the viewer off because you're like, oh my God. Well, now he's not the killer. Who could it be? And obviously there are more twists and turns to come, but in the moment, this pays off. I mean, it comes out of fucking nowhere, and it looks pretty violent. They play it rather well. But let me just say, man, the chase sequence to follow, mwah, chef's kiss. I mean, I know that if there's one thing I look for in slashers, it's quality chase scenes. Give me a chase scene that lasts for 5 solid minutes and goes through 7 different locations and involves 8 different weapons. I want to see the most elaborate chase scene fucking possible. And this movie, it delivers in spades.
Well, yeah. Can we just say though, this film possibly has one of the longest climaxes in slasher film history. I mean, by the time the whole final climax of the film takes place at Stu's house, right? And by the point they get to Stu's house, there is still like 50 some minutes left of the film. We also have to mention this is a 2 hour, or it's an hour and 51 minute slasher film. Yeah, and we always constantly talk about, well, slasher films don't need to be, that long, but I think it actually plays into this one's favor because it never feels that long at all.
Oh no, that's because it keeps you guessing the entire time. I mean, your brain's never not active when you're watching this movie. You are never bored during Scream ever.
No, and that's what I'm saying. That plays in the long running time's favor because I think even though it's almost 2 hours, it breezes by. So yeah, there's an elaborate chase scene. Sydney runs through the house. She goes up to the attic. There's a moment where she tries to get out of the attic window onto the roof, and Ghostface grabs her, and she yanks free from his grip and falls back onto the boat below. Luckily, the boat has its cover on, so she's not, injured. But as she gets off the boat, she notices Tatum's mangled dead body still hanging in the garage doggy door.
Nev Campbell gives such a great fucking reaction to violence and murder. Like her face, like I always buy it. Like she has so much fear in her eyes. She has these little like squinty eyes that like get all watery and emotional and terrified. And I just buy her fear. She looks so believably scared.
I don't want to know how nobody else saw that body hanging out of the garage. All those kids that were there, they were out wandering about. You try and tell me nobody saw that fluorescent green top and that psychedelic skirt hanging out of the goddamn garage door?
They're all wasted and went to drunkenly drive away, and they just probably breezed right by it and didn't even notice.
We do get the scene with Randy on the couch watching Halloween, the scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is sitting in the doorway of the bedroom after she stabbed Michael Myers in the eye with the wire hanger, and he's coming at her and he's like, Jamie, turn around, which it's been mentioned 1,000 times, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek because the actor is Jamie Kennedy, and as he's saying, Jamie, turn around, who's coming up behind him with the knife raised? Ghostface.
And just when you think that Ghostface is about to, chop into Randy in the middle of this ironic moment, Ghostface is distracted. He notices sound coming from the van outside, the news van. Arriving at the van, you have Sydney, who confronts Kenny and basically starts to tell him what happened. And they become distracted by the screen, the TV screen, where they see that Randy is now being, potentially killed by Ghostface. Only they realize that Ghostface leaves the screen And noticing the 30-second delay, he opens up the door to see that the front door to the house is now wide open. And so when he steps out of the vehicle, he turns around to face Sydney, and Ghostface steps in and violently cuts his throat. It's such a great kill. Super gruesome. You see the cut. It's really well done. Super gnarly.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty startling sequence as well. I mean, you don't expect poor Kenny to go, but he does. But he does one last thing before he dies, and he nods Cindy towards the back of the van because there is a little escape kind of hatch that she has to crawl through to get out of the back of the van. So Cindy just darts into the back van, crawls out of this little, it's like a little like a cubby hole that she has to crawl out of to get through the back of the van. And I chuckle every time I see it because Ghostface follows her, and there's like a shot of him trying to get through trying to crawl through the cubby hole himself, which is kind of funny because all he has to do is like stay outside and chase her because she was going out the back of the van. Like it's just comical to see this ghost-faced figure trying to crawl through a little cubby hole.
Well, and people don't think about the fact that, like, with these masks, like, you have, like, no peripheral vision. Like, it is not easy to operate in these costumes. They make it look way easier than it is in these movies. So, like, that seems like something that would absolutely happen to somebody in that costume, like, who's like, I've got to chase after this person. They're like, I'm stuck. I can't see anything. Like, it just seems like very plausible, like an accident that would happen. It just makes the killer seem more human, which is like, I like this. Like, I like that fact that this killer is never fantastical. He's never a Jason Voorhees or another character that keeps coming back from the dead. There's an explanation, a very real explanation for who the killer is every time. And so I appreciate the little fuck ups, the little errors,
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Ghostface is not the most slick killer there is. There's a lot of times that he makes some mistakes, or he easily gets knocked off his feet, or he runs into something or whatever. So I do appreciate that fact that he is made to be very human, he or she. So it adds that element to it adds to the element that everyone's a suspect, because this is not a Jason Voorhees. This is not a Michael Myers. We know it's always somebody else that's taking on the persona of Ghostface, and they're always very human in their reactions and interactions with their victims. So it just makes it that much more terrifying and realistic, Dewey and Gail get back to the house, and he immediately tells her to go to the van and call the police. He's going in the house to look around, and when he goes in, Halloween is still playing. I will say the continuity of this Halloween tape, if anybody knows Halloween like as a film and has seen it numerous times, there's an issue with the continuity, because the scene that it's on now when Dewey gets in the house is not where it would be if Randy was just watching the wire hanger scene. So Gail gets to the van and she notices a huge puddle of blood outside the van. So she immediately gets in the van, shuts the door, starts the van, but the whole windshield is covered with a liquid. And when she turns it on, she realizes it's blood. And then poor Kenny's body falls onto the glass of the car.
This whole moment is so fucking entertaining, because then you have Randy show up. He's like, what's going on? And she just starts beating him with like the cell phone. And she tries to drive away, and the blood's like running down the glass, the body sliding down the window, and all of a sudden Sydney comes running out on the street, and so Gail has to like swerve to avoid hitting her. And there's this like extremely violent car crash where the van just like plows into a tree. It's really well done, and you do think for a moment that Gail would probably be dead at this moment, because it is a violent impact.
Oh, especially because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so yeah, I would expect that she flew through the windshield and got smashed onto the tree. But I do like I love the shot of Kenny's body sliding down the windshield. And actually, if you've seen my film Party Night, I totally paid homage to that. We'll say paid homage, quote unquote, during one of the final scenes at Party Night, when the main character, the final girl, gets in the car and starts the car, and her boyfriend's body slides down the windshield and he's had his throat slit. So Sydney gets to the house after the van crashes, and Dewey comes out and he sees Sydney, and she's like, Dewey, and he's like, Sydney is like really confused. and he falls, and we see that he's been stabbed in the back. Now, this is when Dewey was supposed to die, folks. Like in the original film, original script, Dewey was dead at this point. Ghostface comes up, pulls the knife out of Dewey's back. She tries to hide in the police uh, truck, and as she's calling through the CB radio, the radio in the truck, Ghostface opens the back of the truck, proceeds to crawl in and grab her, and starts choking her.
There's this great moment right beforehand where she gets in the vehicle and then she realizes there's no keys, and Ghostface does dangle the keys in front of her mockingly. So that's when she's like, fuck it, I'm just going to radio for help. But I do love this little moment where you see the trunk like slowly opening behind her and you see the killer just rise up. It's a great little moment. Again, she fights back. She's always fucking kicking and punching. Like, you are not getting your hands on Sidney Prescott, let me tell you right now. And so she's forced to run back into the house.
Well, and she gets a gun. She gets Dewey's gun, right? And as she is running into the house, Stu and Randy approach her, and they are both accusing each other of being the killer. And what does she do? She does the smartest fucking thing you could ever do. She shuts the door on both of them.
Fuck you both. I love it.
Fuck you both.
I love
and
it.
locks them out.
And if you look here, you do notice, like, because you as a viewer, I think you pretty much know that Randy is not going to be a killer at this point, because you've seen him in several situations where it was pretty apparent that the killer was genuinely probably looking to kill him, especially with that couch sequence. So he just seems very clueless. I think that if anyone doesn't feel like a red herring, it's Randy at this point, but Stu fucking absolutely does. And if you listen to the dialogue and you see what Stu is doing with his body language and what he's saying, very manic. Like, I mean, it is really big and very intimidating and very aggressive towards Sydney, like coming up the steps and reaching towards her and everything. So I get why she slams that fucking door. Smart. Good on her. But from here, I mean, we do enter the final stretch of the finale. Like, this is the last build of the climax, and what a payoff.
Yeah, as she is inside the house with the door locked and the two guys outside pounding to get in, we see that Billy stumbles out from the bedroom upstairs, and he actually tumbles down the stairs quite violently. And he's still alive. So she runs to him and, gets him up, and he wants to leave the house, and she's like, no, 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 don't go out there. He takes the gun from her and opens the door, and immediately Randy comes in, and Randy is like, oh my God, Stu's gone mad. He's gone mad. And Billy turns around very slowly, points the gun at Randy and says, we all go a little mad sometimes, and shoots Randy. And we, the audience and Sydney, are like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it is a twist.
She tries to run into the kitchen and is immediately blocked by Stu, who walks in and doesn't say anything to her, but until he lifts the voice changer up to his mouth and he says, surprise, Sid.
This moment with the two boys, as we start to realize, oh fuck, these fuckers are the killers, both of them. They unleash a very unhinged performance here. I think it's a reveal that allowed them to kind of go to an extreme um, with the overall mentality of the who, what, and why, what they're doing. Really allowed these actors to really run with their abilities, their capabilities as performers. They both really elevate their performances and take their overall just spiral into psychotic unraveling to a really wild extreme. Especially, I would say, Stu. I really think that Stu has some really just unhinged moments, bits of dialogue that I really buy it. I buy this character. Whereas, Billy is just, he has a lot of rage, violent rage. But Stu, it seems very just off, crazy, like just absolutely just in it for the sake of the violence, in it for the sake of the killing. He doesn't really give a fuck about the who, what, and why. He just likes doing it, and I find it so interesting to watch. I really love Matthew Lillard's performance for the final stretch of the film here. I think he's great.
Oh, I do too. I think that he goes places that is just so, as a audience member to watch, is just so entertaining and uh, realistic. It's yeah, I love the last 10 minutes of this film are just ace. We find out that, Billy's motive. At first, he says that motives, it's the millennium, motives are incidental. Because Sydney's like, why? And he's like, why? You want to know why? Very much mirroring Rebecca Gayheart in Urban Legend, right? When she says, why? And so ultimately, what we find out is Billy is enacting this revenge on Sydney and her mother because now it is literally the year anniversary of when they killed her mother. They reveal that they are the ones that killed her mother. And she's like, well, you'll never get away with this. And they're like, oh yeah, just ask Cotton Weary. It was so easy to frame him. Just watch a couple movies, take a couple notes. And Billy reveals his motive, quote unquote, is the fact that Sydney's mother slept with his father and his mom found out and she abandoned him. And when he's telling this story, I do like there's a shot of Stu's face where he looks totally like perplexed, like he had no idea that this was kind of the root cause of Billy wanting to do this. He is totally perplexed.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think that's why when I say like I really love where he goes with his performance here is because I do genuinely think that Stu just is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and enjoys the violence of it all, whereas Billy's intentions are coming from a deeper, darker place, you know. But there is also, I mean, I hate to go here because we go here a lot, but this is something brought up by a lot of queer fans. And watching it, I was looking for it, and I see it. I see it. There are some definite queer, gay, romantic lover-esque undertones in the way these boys interact with each other, especially during this big monologue moment where Stu is he kind of basically has his like head perched on Billy's shoulder, and he's just like right up in the nook of it, listening to everything he says, and he keeps making this like really intense eye contact towards Billy, and it does feel very erotic. And I'm not like looking to say this for the sake of saying it, because if it wasn't genuine, I don't think I would really want to touch on it. But I mean, I can't deny it. Like it's something that exists between these two. This kind of like tormented gay lovers on a hellbent vengeance, like murdering spree. Like it feels that way. They definitely feel like they have this weird sexual chemistry almost.
Well, we have to keep in mind the script was written by a gay man. I mean, do with that what you will. They reveal their plan. They bring out Sydney's dad. They've had Sydney's dad tied up and bound in the closet apparently this entire time. So they bring him out, and this plan is they're going to frame him for the murders, and they're going to blame it on the fact that he just went crazy on the 1 year anniversary of his wife's murder. And Billy and Stu are going to be the sole survivors. But to make it even more realistic, they agree that they need to have wounds to go along with their story that they tell the cops that they were attacked. So they're going to stab each other. Billy gets the knife first and plunges it into Stu, goes a little too deep. Stu takes a knife, stabs him, and there's just like this. It's almost, I don't even want to say it's almost, it's very comedic. These two going at it and stabbing each other, penetrating each other multiple times with the knife, and Stu making the comment, "Oh, you're going too deep."
Feeling a little woozy here.
Yeah, and you have to, the one thing that I question though is like, do you feel like Billy was intentionally trying to kill Stu?
Oh, I don't think Billy gave two shits about it. You know, I think Billy is on his own kind of vengeance spree.
Because on one hand, if you sit there and think, if you're going to sit there and buy into this theory that I've heard as well as a gay horror fan, I've heard this, that Stu and Billy were lovers and had some sexual escapade going on that drove their killing spree. it wouldn't really make sense to me that Billy would want Stu dead. But yeah, you're right. I guess he could be just a fucking psychopath, which he obviously is. He even calls himself a psychopath. He's like, it certainly fucked you up, made you sleep with a psychopath.
I think in regards to like big reveals and like motivations and plans, like regarding why killers are like kind of disclosing their master plans, I do think this film is the best of the best. The motivation is fucking amazing. The overall plan that the killers have for the who, what, and why, flawless. Their whole kind of like backstory of what they're going to do and why they're going to, why they're basically going to get away with it. The fact they have this all thought out, like I really feel like this film crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's when it came to the conclusion, which makes the reveal and the payoff inevitably feel so much grander and bigger. I think this is definitely one of the best finales, reveals, and overall just final moments with a killer reveal. It really is probably the number one for me, to be honest, just because it's so tight, it's so well scripted. It doesn't feel convoluted. You have a lot of movies that end with a big reveal, and when the killer gives their reasoning as to who, what, and why, you're like, are you okay? Like, I guess I'll go with this. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is lame, or this doesn't make sense, or this is exaggerated. This doesn't feel exaggerated. This feels very much like two mentally unstable young men making some really horrible fucking choices.
Horrible choices indeed. And they're pretty cocky to think they're actually going to get away with it. I mean, forensic evidence is a thing. This was 96. I would think that they would be found out. But it is the naive it's the innocence of teenage boys, right? Thinking that they're going to be able to pull this off.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I definitely take that into account with these two.
Yeah. So Stu goes to get the gun and he notices that it's missing from the counter where he set it. And he's like, oh shit, there's a problem. And Billy's like, what? And he's like, the gun. I laid it right here and it's not here. Well, all of a sudden, Gail steps in with the gun. Stu's like, where's the gun? She's like, right here, motherfucker. And she comes into the room and she's going to shoot them. And she does this little thing where she's like, I have a better ending for you. The TV journalist comes in, stumbles upon you two fucks, finds you out and saves the day. And Sydney's like, oh, I like that ending. But Billy approaches her and like gets right in her face. He's like, I know something you don't. And all of a sudden he kicks her. She flies back onto the porch. He gets the gun and she did not shut the safety off. And as they're out on the porch, he's getting ready to shoot her. He's like, this is Gail Weathers signing off. And Stu turns around and notices that Sydney is not there. He's like, oh shit. And Billy goes back in the house. He doesn't shoot Gail because he rushes back into the house. And this is when he goes on a fucking major tirade. He's like throwing shit around. You fucking bitch, come out, you fucking bitch. And I love this moment where she calls him on the phone.
Sydney takes full control of the final moment of the film, which is really empowering. She takes over the Ghostface voice operator, the voice manipulator, and she calls them, and she kind of taunts and mocks them for a moment. And it causes Billy to become irate, and he's breaking things and ruining things around the house as Stu, who is now bleeding out, like Stu is definitely dying, which is hilarious. Stu takes the phone and he has some really great like final one-liners. At one point, Billy like hits him with the phone and he's like, "Don't hit me with the phone, dick." And then
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Did you really call the police already? My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me." Like it is so good. His dialogue here is just one after another, like one-liner, one-liner, one-liner.
And she is just taunting them to death. She's like, oh, I see Billy had a motive, but what's your motive, Stu? And he's like, peer pressure. And Billy takes the phone. He's like, you better come out, you little bitch. He goes to look for her and he approaches the closet where they were keeping her dad, and he hears a noise and he turns his head, and all of a sudden she busts out of the closet with an umbrella and stabs him in the chest with the umbrella. And she is wearing the ghost faced costume, which I find kick ass because she wants to make sure the last thing that these fuckers see is the ghost face that they use to terrorize and kill other people. She stabs him with the umbrella, and at the same time, Stu all of a sudden comes and attacks her, and they have this very elaborate fight where he throws her over the couch. They're rolling around on the floor, and all the feathers from the couch pillows are flying everywhere. And he's on top of her, and he's like, "I've always had a thing for you, Sid."
In your dreams.
And in your dreams, and she gets the best of him, and she gets up and she tips the big old heavy ass TV onto his head, smashes onto his head, and fucking electrocutes the shit out of him.
I know people want Stu to come back in another movie.
There is no way. I know, guys, if you're one of those people that are like, oh, bring Stu back, that would fuck the entire franchise up, because there is no way this dude survived that. I don't know if you guys remember how fucking heavy those TVs were. These aren't your little flat screen TVs we have now. These things weighed, what, 60, 70 pounds, those tube televisions? If that fell on top of you with enough force to break, you are dead. You were dead. Plus, he was dying anyways. He was literally moments from bleeding out. There is no way that Stu's died. And I know people will say, oh, well, look at Kirby. Kirby got stabbed. Okay. There's a big difference between being stabbed and having a fucking 70-pound television smash your head and electrocute you. So while I love the Stu character and I get the sentiment of he's dead, leave it at that. There is no way anyone would survive that.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So Randy is revealed to be alive, but he is immediately knocked out by Billy.
Right after he says he's never been so happy to be a virgin, Billy's arm comes flying out of the side of the screen and knocks him out.
He barely gets a line of dialogue out, and he's already knocked out again. And so then Billy immediately mounts atop Sydney, and he's attempting to stab her. And before he can, fucking Gale motherfucking Weathers is back up on her feet, gun in hand, and this time she shoots him in the fucking chest because she's a badass bitch.
And she says, I guess I didn't forget to turn the safety on this time.
You bastard. It's in a perfect final moment, too. The moment where the supposedly dead killer comes back for one last scare is cut short just as Billy starts to lift his head. Sydney aims the gun at him, and she fires. She shoots a bullet right through his forehead. She says, not in my movie, motherfucker. I mean, she doesn't say motherfucker, but it's implied. But, like, I mean, what a satisfying payoff. And what's so satisfying about it to me, honestly, Troy, at this point, is the fact that, I mean, the final girl kicks some ass, and she definitely got her revenge. But I also love the fact that we are left with several major characters alive. A lot of times, I mean, I think these movies are more concerned about body count than they are about preserving the likability of the characters. And this cast is so charming and so likable. The fact that we end up having what is actually 4 characters, major characters that survive, because you have Randy, Gale, Sydney, and then it's revealed Dewey as he gets, pushed out into the ambulance here in the final moment. All 4 of these characters have made it. And I think it's rare that a movie of this genre really cares about people enough to allow that to happen. This movie still had a massive head count. I mean, there are a lot of victims over the course of this film, but still also made sure to give us people we want to root for, which I think is vital and pivotal to make a movie like this really successful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the people that survive are, I think, the ones that you would hope survived. I mean, I would love for Tatum to survive. I mean, but why not demand Tatum come back? I mean, that's about as logical as Stu coming back based on their manner of deaths. But there is a final moment with Sydney's dad jumping out of the closet. He's still alive. They all kind of huddle out of the house, limp out of the house, and Gale ends the film by doing a news broadcast from outside the house, reciting that exact monologue that you opened this podcast with. So we are going circular. We are ending where we began.
And I'm going to do it again, right? No, I'm joking. Like, what if I just went through the whole Gale Weathers monologue? Seriously, though, like that beautiful crane shot lifting up over the sunrise, the field behind the farmhouse, like just looking beautiful and soaring, and these wild fields. It's just really beautiful, like this beautiful note to end it on, as Gail delivers this big epic kind of news report. It really is like the perfect note to take the movie out on, and this is just such a satisfying finale. My God, like one of the best of them.
I agree. I mean, the last 15 minutes of this film are just an adrenaline rush to watch. Shock after shock. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you remember, but like your first time figure or watching this film, were you surprised by the killer's reveal? I know I
Oh,
was.
absolutely. I remember before I ever saw the movie, it was like everyone, because I was still in grade school at this time, and everybody was talking about it. And there was no way my family would let me see it. So I remember when I finally got the chance to see it, it was so like taboo and such a big deal. And it like blew my mind. And the reveal absolutely like left me just crazy shocked.
Well, and then, if you stick around through the end credits, you do get now what has become the trademark kind of end credit sequence where each of the actors' faces pop up with their names. I always like to stick around for that. But yeah, that is Scream.
We did it.
We did
Oh
it.
my God. 2 hours and 40 minutes.
A long
Whew.
one. But I mean, A, the film itself is almost 2 hours long. B, it's our 75th episode. We had to go big. We had to go
Yeah.
big.
And see, if any movie deserves this much dialogue and
Oh,
conversation.
Exactly. We could have talked more and more and more if we would have got on the tangents about the sequels and stuff. But that's why I said we need to rein it in, because this is going to be long enough as it is.
Yeah.
I definitely want to cover the sequels at some point. Anybody that knows me, follows me, or has heard me speak about the Scream franchise actually knows that my favorite of the franchise isn't part one; it's part two. So I need to cover part two at some point.
Oh, well, I mean, I know very well an opportunity for us to do that. I'll keep it at that. I'll keep it at that.
I know, that's why I brought it up. But we will actually cover, the rest of the franchise at some point as well. But yeah, guys, that's Scream. I mean, hopefully we entertained you, because we know this film has been talked about to death. But hopefully you found something we said interesting, funny, whatever, controversial. If you want to comment, let us know. Let us know your thoughts on Scream. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. We're just going to leave it at, I'm just going to leave it at the Scream franchise is obviously one of my favorites. It was super influential to me as a filmmaker. I am glad that it reignited the slasher franchise in 1996, and I'm glad that it seems to be on that trajectory now with the latest Scream. So I love the Scream franchise. I do think they kind of get a little bit repetitive, so I'm glad that they're taking part six and locating it outside of Woodsboro and doing something a little bit different with it, it seems. So super excited. But Scream, one of my favorites, so it was worth 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Absolutely, worth every second. And I'm glad that I'm sad we didn't cover Poison Ivy, but we still got our daily dosage of Drew Barrymore.
You can never get enough of
And
Drew Barrymore.
we can't get enough. And you know what?
I will say about Drew Barrymore, and then we'll end. I love the fact that she still very much acknowledges this film.
Oh, she's so proud of it. She loves it. I love her.
Yes, you don't see that. You don't see a lot of actresses that have gained her sort of notoriety that starred in horror films won't even discuss them. So it's cool that she embraces it and still is very active in the kind of the Scream franchise. She on her show, she was promoting the latest Scream movie and everything. So I love to see that. I love Drew Barrymore. But guys, let us know your thoughts on Scream, and should we announce? Well, we don't know what we're covering.
Well, we're doing our fan picks it week, and I kind of like the idea that we just leave our listeners kind of waiting in suspense.
Yeah. Okay. We're doing fan picks. So stay tuned to see what we cover next week, because we are going to, based on suggestions that we have gotten, we are going to choose 4 of them to do for the month of July. We are just going to randomly pick 4 titles. We'll put them in a randomizer and have them choose them for us, because we already got some great suggestions. So we will announce those titles next
I'm very
week
excited. This is gonna be a fun month. Let me tell you. Leading up to our grand debut,
at the Houston Horror Film Festival.
where you can finally see us in person.
If you're there, you're gonna find our little table. Come up and say hi, get some goodies, and so
Give Troy a kiss on the lips, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, remember Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating. Check out our Patreon for awesome bonus content. Patreon.com/Dark Night of the Podcast. And until next week with a listener pick that we will reveal to you, we bid you good night.
Good night.